Going live in 3, 2, 1.
Good afternoon to everyone on behalf of the entire Board of Education of Brentwood and District Administration. Welcome to our January 28th, 2021 budget workshop. I am going to call the meeting to order at 4:48 p.m. In doing so, I need a motion to convene the workshop at 4:48 p.m. Could I have a motion, please?
Motion.
Motion by Trustee Moore. Could I have a second, please?
Second.
Second by Trustee Burgos. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Abstentions? So moved. So with that being said, I am going to now go to the agenda, and I believe that Mr. Loshner sent it out to all of us earlier in the day. I'm going to ask if we could all please stand for the pledge to the flag. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States
of America,
the republic,
and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
There is a quick note that I'd like to interject before it gets forgotten or lost along the way. I did get this from District Clerk Hoey, and it's just a public announcement. So the Brentwood American Legion and the Brentwood Parade Committee, I'm going to read it right from the flyer. We are honoring our hometown heroes who have perished during combat serving our country. During the month of May, we will be honoring these individuals by displaying 30 by 60-inch banners around town, locations to be determined. Each banner will have the person's name, rank, photo, branch of service, date of death, and the conflict that claimed them. The cost for each banner is $200, which includes hardware. If you can help, please make checks payable to the Brentwood American Legion, Post 1006, write Hometown Heroes on the memo line, and please mail to Brentwood American Legion, Post 1006, 198 First Street in Brentwood, New York, 11717. Anything that the community members could do to cooperate.
That was actually sent for the board, just so you know, too.
Yep. And I do believe that we responded. Yep. We're doing it also. Yep. So
I am
again,
part of this, and it's a big thing to do.
Yeah, and absolutely, every one of these individuals, should be honored and given, just great praise. Ultimately, it's the biggest sacrifice that anyone can make. So, with that being said, I want to thank you in advance for any cooperation that you could make when it comes to this. A really great cause, So I'm sure that it'll be reminded again to the community somewhere along our upcoming meetings. With this now being said, we are now going into the second formal and informal budget workshop. The topics to be covered are central services, transportation, and benefits. With that being said, I guess I'm going to turn the meeting over to Ms. O'Connor.
Hi, welcome to everybody who's here. Thank you for sharing this with us. We're going to talk about, as Mr. Feliciano just said, some of our central areas, our buildings and grounds, our security, transportation, then we'll move into benefits at the end. So without further ado, I will introduce Mike Cruz, who will talk about our buildings and grounds area, and I'm going to share my screen and we'll go over the budget handout that we usually have at the budget meetings. So Mike, just give me a second to get that onto the screen, okay?
Sure. Good evening, everyone. I'd like to actually start off with acknowledging our B&G staff who have really stepped up in being able to all the new tasks and all the sanitizing jobs that we need to do throughout the district. I'm going to start off with 1620, 1600 through 1620, 1630. Those are all as per contract. The next one is 1620, 2000 operational equipment. This code is used to purchase equipment for the custodial operation. I'm proposing that be held level. 1620, 4210 operational fire insurance. This code is used to provide commercial property insurance for all district buildings. A 1% increase is being proposed to cover an anticipated cost of coverage increases. 1620, 4330 operational installation of purchasing and leasing of storage containers. This is, for example, light disposals, district storage containers, etc. That's being held level. 1620, 4350 operational uniform rental. This code is used to lease buildings and grounds uniforms, which are on contract, and that's also being held level. 1620, 4400 operational professional and tech services, new employee drug testing, UST tank permits, material safety data sheets, school duty work orders, boiler inspections, are just to name a few. That's what this budget code covers. That's also being held level. 1620, 4611 operational cartage and dumping. This code is used for the rental of garbage containers and related pickup services. It's being held level. 1620, 4641 operational fuel oil. This code is used to purchase fuel oil needed to heat district buildings. Also being held level. 1620, 4660 operational building repairs. This code is used to make expected and unexpected repairs to all district buildings. That also includes cesspools, roofs, gym wall pit, partition inspections, etc. I'm proposing an 8.3% increase due to the increases of building or the need of building repairs. The next one is 1620, 4680 operational upkeep of grounds. This code is used to make expected and unexpected repairs to all district properties, irrigation, sports fields, painting, signage, ice melt. This is also being held level. 1620, 4690 operational propane natural gas. This code is used to purchase natural gas needed to assist in heating district buildings and also supplying gas to kitchens for cooking. This is being held level. 1620, 4770 operational electricity is used to cover the cost of electricity for all the district's buildings. This will be decreased by 4.5% due to the energy performance projects that are being completed throughout the district. 1620, 4780 operational telephone. That covers telephone communications. That is being held level. 1620, 4785 operational water is used to pay for the water needs of the district, cooking, pool, irrigation for athletic fields, etc. That's being held level. 1620, 4900 operational services for BOCES is used for providing technical testing services like lab results, abatements, and lead and water testing. That actually that stays level. 1620, 5000 operational supplies. This code is used to purchase office supplies for the Buildings and Grounds Department. That's being held level. 1620, 5100 operational pool supplies is used to purchase pool, chlorine, pH chemicals, and pool supplies. That's also being held level. 1620, 5400 operational custodial supplies. This code is used to purchase all cleaning paper products and supplies used daily by all buildings. This is being increased by 6.67% due to continued purchases of aggressive cleaning products and increased sanitizing capabilities. 1620, 5410 operational playground equipment. This code is used to purchase replacement playground equipment as needed. That's being held level. 1620, 5440 operational electrical supplies is used to purchase supplies needed to repair and expand electrical systems district-wide. That's being held level. 1620, 5500 operational glass supplies. This code is used to purchase glass and window supplies needed district-wide. That's going to be level also. 1620, 5510 operational painting supplies. That's to purchase paint supplies. That's being held level also. 1620, 5530 operational heating supplies. This is used to purchase parts needed to keep district boilers, UVs, and air handlers operating. That's also being held level. 1620, 5560 operational roofing and caulking. This code is used to purchase roofing membrane and materials needed to repair all district roofs. That's also being held level. 1620 5610, operational ceiling supplies. This code is used to purchase ceiling tiles that need to be replaced. This code is being decreased by 28.5% due to roof repairs district-wide. We've had quite a few roofs that have been replaced. That decreases the need for all these repairs. 1620 5620, operational flooring supplies. This code is used to purchase floor tiles, rugs, stair treads, and related supplies. That's being held level. 1620 5630, operational shade and blind supplies. This code is used to purchase supplies needed to repair shades and blinds district-wide. That's being held level. The next budget codes are maintenance budget codes. 1621 1600. I'm sorry, 1621 1610. That is actually by contract. 1621 2000 is a maintenance equipment code. This is used to purchase new equipment as needed. Examples are grounds and maintenance vehicles, plows for snow removal, etc. We're also going to need planning for parking lot obstacles like the new solar canopies, etc. We're proposing an increase of 55.5% due to that purpose. 1621 4650, maintenance B&G equipment repairs. This code is used to make expected and unexpected repairs to all maintenance and grounds equipment. That's being held level. 1621 4670, maintenance building equipment repairs. This code is used to make expected and unexpected repairs to the equipment in all the buildings. This is also being held level. 1621 4680, maintenance of improvement of grounds is used for maintaining district grounds. That's also holding level. 1621 5420, maintenance welding supplies. This code is used to purchase materials and supplies for welding repairs district-wide. That's for the auto shop and plumbers and HVAC techs. That's being held level. 1621 5450, maintenance plumbing supplies is used for the purchase of materials and supplies for plumbing repairs district-wide. We're proposing an increase of 11.11%, and that's due to new requirements of annual lead and water testing. And they're going to start doing that every year, as opposed to in the past where they used to do it every few years. And also the parts per billion have lowered from, 25 parts per billion to 5% per billion. 1621 5460, maintenance hardware supplies is used for purchases of hardware supplies used by all of the trades. That's being held level. 1621 5470, maintenance lumber supplies is used for purchasing lumber and related materials. For example, classroom sink countertops, window counters, framing materials, etc. That's being held level. 1621 5480, maintenance maintenance metal and fence supplies is used for the purchase of fencing supplies for repairs district-wide. That's being held level. 1621 5490, maintenance tool supplies is being used for the purchase and repair of tools used in our maintenance department. That's being held level. 1621 5520, maintenance fertilizer and seed is used to purchase lime, fertilizer, and seed for district athletic fields. That's being held level. 1621 5540, maintenance locksmith supplies is used for the purchase of locks, doors, closers, key blanks, and other related supplies pertaining to securing our facilities. That's being held level. 1621 5570, maintenance asphalt supplies is for the purchase materials and supplies to maintain district parking lots, potholes, etc. Proposing to hold it level. 1621 5580, maintenance masonry and sand is used for purchasing cement products, requesting it be held level. 1621 5590, maintenance salt. This is used to purchase sand and salt to combat icy parking lots and sidewalks during inclement weather. We're holding that level. 1621 5700, maintenance vehicle supplies. This is used to purchase auto parts needed to maintain the district's fleet of vehicles. We're proposing to hold that level as well. 1621 5710, maintenance gasoline and oil is used to purchase gas, diesel, and oil for all district vehicles, proposing it be held level. 1621 5730, maintenance maintaining tires is used for replacing tires for all district vehicles. We're holding that level. And that comes to a close. That's about it for the buildings and grounds proposed budget.
Does anybody have
Can
any
you just
questions?
talk
Or
a little? I'm sorry, guys.
any board members have any questions?
Yeah,
as to
I
what
do.
Mr. Cruz presented?
On page 2, under operational custodial supplies, and it's an additional $25,000. Is that for the sanitizing equipment for the schools? And will the district be reimbursed for that? Or any of the costs that we incurred because of COVID?
Go ahead.
I
We're
don't know if
able
that's
to use CARES funding in terms of the reimbursement. We're able to use CARES funding for, to pay for some of that stuff. But as we know, that CARES funding, the additional money or the money we received was not additional. It was actually part of our foundation aid. So there's really no additional money for that. It's just coming out of our budget. Now, there is a FEMA process to make a claim for some of these things. We started off, we were initially told that we could get reimbursement. Eric, Mr. Carlin did a lot of work on it, gathered a lot of the material, Mr. Cruz as well, for the stuff in his area, put all that together and gave it to Mr. Carlin to do the claim. And then Brentwood, just as many school districts on the island or, throughout the state were told, no, you can't claim any of that, that it just won't be reimbursed. Now there might be a minor reimbursement. So we're going to continue with the claim regardless. The worst thing they can do is deny us. So we are going to try, but it's not going to be any great reimbursement if we are able to get it.
Okay, thank you, Stacy.
Any other questions from board members
I'm good.
on the presentation from Mr. Cruz? Ms. O'Connell, do you have anything to add to what was presented? Any, I know that you always have certain explanations, certain, details that you'd like to throw in there.
Maybe Mike can talk just a little bit about the solar. I don't know if anybody's seen it throughout the
Right.
district. You mentioned it while you were going over your budget, why the electric was going down. But Mike, have we started that project? Is there anything to be seen throughout the district?
There's quite a bit of work that has been actually started and almost completed, but not online just yet. East Middle is a great example of that. In East Middle parking lot, if anyone has the opportunity to take a ride over there, it looks pretty incredible. And what's most incredible is the time frame that it has taken them to the contractors, that is, to complete that particular task without interfering with the bus run, the arrivals, dismissals, etc. I've been working with Brad Cohen with Johnson Controls. He's on top of all of that. Right now, we started some work. They started some work at South Middle. They've also worked. They are also working at West Middle. I have to say, it's incredible. It's great to see that type of advancement in our district. I'm very proud to be a part of all that. Definitely.
Mike, I have a question.
Sure.
Looking at the pictures, it seems that it shouldn't be a problem for the snowplows to get through when, we have a snowstorm.
Well, okay.
It appears that way. So, did you have something to do with that when you were?
I have to say that appearances can be deceiving.
Uh-oh.
And the reason why I say that is that's always a very huge obstacle. We're very fortunate that we got an excellent grounds crew. Rob Lorifus and his guys, whenever it snows, they're right on top of it. They're paying attention to all the weather patterns. But initially when they started discussing all of those solar panels, that was a very big, huge concern. And I have to say that so far it looks okay. My fingers are crossed. But that's the reason. I mean, we'll adapt to what is needed. It's definitely a scary thought thinking about that. Anything is going to impede our abilities on being able to get the buildings clear whenever there is inclement weather, like snow and all that. But we'll tackle it when the time comes. That's all I could say. I think we're prepared.
Yeah, is there a way that they could put reflectors on the bottom of, you know, where I guess the cement things are, so that when they're plowing, if they have reflectors, they could see, you know, that, you know, not to plow into the poles, more or
Yeah,
less.
that is always a concern. I have to say that when it snows, 9 times out of 10, that actually it just gives out a lot more light. However, our seasoned, experienced drivers, all our guys, I mean, we're always obviously trying to do our best to avoid an accident, but accidents do happen. So I was going to talk with the contractor to see if there's anything that we can do. Worst case scenario, if we need to, I'd rather not. I'm hoping that they can provide some kind of deflective material, like I've
Okay.
seen deflective tape, around it.
Mhm.
If not, I mean, if it becomes a problem, then we'll have to do like we've done the curbs and the parking lots. Not something that I want to do because that definitely adds to the budget, as far as the materials needed,
Yeah.
the paintbrushes, and also the time that it takes to do all of that. So I'm
Yeah.
kind of hoping that the contractors might be able to contribute. Um, yeah, that's about it.
Okay,
A
thank
lot
you.
of thought process went into the placement of the pillars.
Mhm.
For the most part, we tried to keep it where we already have islands within the parking lot, so it's not out in the open. East Middle School is just a wide open parking lot, so where we started, it's in the parking lot, those pillars.
Okay.
But some, like on the East K side, that's off, on the grass area. So we really tried to keep that main area, of the parking lot open. And it's not the same stands or, or structure as if you go to the train station. I don't know how they'd plow around that because you have pillars coming out or posts in between the cars. We're not going to have
Right.
that.
Yeah, it's a
Um,
completely different design. It's actually much wider and a lot higher. I have to say, we've at East Middle, we've got nothing but compliments on how everyone thought it was going to be, sort of like in the way, and it really isn't. I mean,
Right.
it's massive, but it definitely doesn't interfere with, the aesthetics of the building.
Thank
If
you.
I can just weigh in real quickly. I'm sorry, Paula, did you have another question? Okay. Yeah, I did want to just say, if anybody has an opportunity to swing by the East Middle School, it really is quite impressive. And we're very proud, as Mike said, to be really one of the first school districts. And actually, I think we may be one of the largest school districts in New York and in the Northeast, if I'm not mistaken. And it's really quite a project. We did spend quite a bit of time, Paula, when they were doing the design. And I think lots of the board members, I know Mr. Feliciano, were involved with taking a look at the height of the solar panels so that buses can pass through and pass underneath without being, in danger of hitting it. So that's actually been factored in. I'm hoping that when we do the snow removal, as Mike said, that should not be a problem for us. But I also want to just take an opportunity to, compliment Mike, also his leadership team of Jay and Rob. They are really the three terrific people, but really their entire staff. This is the first time we have an opportunity to publicly thank and congratulate them. They obviously, since March 13th, that day that we took off, since then, obviously our lives have changed dramatically here in the school district, and really the custodians and B&G and the grounds, they've been front and center of keeping the buildings safe. And I have to say that I'm in the buildings every single day. And today I was in a building and I watched custodians in the middle of, in between classes, go into classrooms and spray down the plastic dividers. They are out in the hallways all day long, taking care of the doorknobs and common areas, the rails on staircases. The buildings look spectacular. In the evenings, they're spending a considerable amount of time going through the common areas and cleaning them. They've been incredibly conscientious about their jobs, and it's really been quite impressive. And I'm certainly grateful to Mike and all of the B&G staff for the work they've done since March 13th. I don't think we'd be here without a committed staff, and they're really doing a terrific job. We all should be very proud of them.
Thank you, Mike.
Thank you for saying that, Mr. Lotion. That was exactly what I was going to end with. On behalf of the entire board, thank you to everybody over at B&G for everything that they're doing. I know that this has been a team effort, but it seems like you guys have been playing, point along with a few other departments on this. And so thank you to everyone involved there. Mr. Lotion, thank you. You couldn't have said it any better. Insofar as the solar, one of the things that when we were looking at this, I remember Ms. Lochner and Ms. O'Connor were sitting with the organization that's doing the installation for this, is that we also wanted to make sure that we were putting, on our property looked appealing. It needed to be aesthetic. It needed to be something that you drove by and it didn't look like a maze of, different, connect the dots and, and put in your initials. It needed to look good. And I think that what we have here is really, a group effort of on all of our parts to make sure that, Brentwood is being represented and looked out for decades to come. I think that this is, Ms. O'Connor, 30 years. I mean, is that what we're looking at in terms of this project, in terms of the
longevity of the
longevity?
expected life? About 25, yeah. And then they start to diminish, but yeah, this will be years to come, we'll save electricity.
Yeah. So great. And thank you, Mr. Cruz, to you and your team again for everything that you are all doing. Does anybody have any other questions? Ms. O'Connor, anything else to add?
Nope.
No. Mr. Lochner? No.
Oh, I'm good. Thank you.
Okay, so I guess we'll move on to the next presenter.
Yep.
Thanks,
Thank you very
Mike.
much, Mike.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mike.
Thank you, Mike.
Okay, so if we stick with the sequence of the handout, our next area is 1625, which is security. So Mr. McRae, or who I now call Dr. McRae at times, our COVID expert. Let me just share the screen and then you can take it away. Oh, there we go. Whenever you're ready, Byron. Are you muted?
I'm ready. Can you hear me now?
Yep.
Okay. All right. Good afternoon, everyone. All right. I just want to start off by saying, my security team this year has really stepped up. Every single one in the department has really stepped up and participated in helping, prevent the spread of COVID. And they've changed the way they deal with people, and morale has really increased in my department. So, I just want to compliment everyone in my department on how they're doing. And the supervisors and everyone's become approachable. And, I enjoy everyone that I work with. I'm going to move on to, I'm going to start off with 4350, which is security uniforms. And with security uniforms, you're going to see a slight 25% increase. I'm saying slight, so you don't feel that bad about the 25% increase. This increase basically is for coats. They have been wearing the same coat for the last 4 years. So this year, we already have to buy the uniforms contractually, and that takes up the monies that's already there. With the 25% increase just for this year, I'll be able to purchase coats and then reduce it in the future year after I purchase the coats back to the normal budget, with, of course, a small percentage for increase in cost for the uniforms. With 4460 security contractual, I'm not asking for really any increase. I'm going to keep it standard for this year. In-service training, I've decreased that by 44% because I'm certified to do most of the trainings now. So I don't have to outsource training or send them the training. The trainings can be done on the property. So we do save 44% in in-service trainings. Security equipment repair, I'm not asking for really any increase there. Security travel, we're going to remain the same. Now, security material supplies. Supplies have increased. I guess it's because due to COVID, but some of the material and supplies have increased by 10, 15%. So I figure, go up at least 15, 20% to cover the cost. I'm going to move on now to, I think it's 3602 with salaries. for subs, let's talk about the subs. Our subs are currently making between 14 and 15 an hour, and it's hard to retain our subs because once we train them, they move on to other school districts. Now, other school districts are paying $18, $19 an hour. I'm not asking that we go that high. I'm only asking for an additional $2.50 to at least bring them to $17.50. So at least after they're trained, they won't go to other schools. You know, other schools are at a benefit because we train them. We get them fingerprinted. They go into the Department of Education, so it's easier for our neighboring schools to hire them immediately after we do all the legwork. So this additional cost of a few dollars would help, you know, retain staff. Now, another thing I wanted to discuss was the freshman center. Right now, we're currently staffed 3 security guards for the freshman center building. I'm asking for an additional staff member to cover the course, for the board to cover the course or the budget to cover the course of this additional staff member. This additional staff member would help out. Right now, we're dealing with 4 middle schools coming into one building. And, you know, naturally, these students bring their baggage with them and life experiences, and we need to be able to, you know, help them adjust to this new environment. They see us every time they come out during the bell change. When they go to the restrooms, they see us. We become a soft eye for them. So gradually, they start talking to us, helping us with our job and helping us do a better job. So by increasing the security there, it'll help also tone down the situations that currently happen in the school district, in that school building. And it would also assist with, you know, the students adapting to the school environment and, you know, better equip the security department in that building, you know, do their job and facilitate their job. There's big 4 corners in that building, and there's an outside building where they go to classes. So we have to, at times, put someone outside to make sure these students are going to the portables outside the building. So we do need the additional security in case there's an emergency. Any questions?
And Mr. McCray, I have a question. So how many, you may have said it already, how many staff members do you have over at the freshman center?
Just 3.
You have 3 currently?
Yes, 3 currently.
Okay, I think in years past, we had more than 3.
The only reason you had 3 is because I would take someone from the high school and assign them to that building.
So we only had 2, and then the third was the floater?
No, actually, you've had 2. 3 are funded, are budgeted for the building, and the 4th one that I've been putting there, I've been borrowing from other areas.
Okay. So then the other question is, you know, you made I think a compelling argument as to why we should increase the hourly rate for security guards, because, you know, I have also experienced, you know, headhunters, you know, stealing staff. Once they're fully trained, then they are valuable. But you undercut yourself when you said that they were being paid $18 elsewhere. Why not bring it to at least 18, if not slightly more, so that we become the most attractive district, and we are thereby now increasing our chances of getting the best staff out there? Do you have a number on what that would cost?
Well, the reason why I didn't want to increase the sub salary more than $17.50 is because then it would interfere with the part-time and full-time salaries. So that means you would have to bump all 3 levels of salaries, because the part-timers are making 18 and change an hour to start, and the full-timers are making that as well to start. So if we increase the sub salary to 18, 19, we don't want the sub call-ins making more than our permanent part-timers and full-timers.
And I can appreciate that. I can absolutely appreciate that. You know, I know that pretty soon, you know, the minimum wage is chances are it's going to be close to $15 an hour sooner than later. And this is, you know, one of those things that I think that we're going to have to deal with as a district, you know, raising the salaries of some of these lesser paid unit members. You know, it really is, you it really is something to contend with. I mean, and the cost of living on Long Island, everybody knows, is just through the roof. I guess, Ms. O'Connor, I mean, maybe if you can just send us projections on what this might be, or this additional cost might be, in terms of, scaling it up so that, we are competitive with our neighboring districts. Is that,
Sure, we could look at that.
okay?
Yeah, now if I could just say to Mr. Feliciano that, our security department is really known across the county for being having a superior training program. So Byron's not kidding around when they say when we get cherry picked, that's the absolute truth, because we do a terrific job training them. And unfortunately, as he said, that then other school districts kind of sweep in and benefit from our training. So I strongly encourage that we move to that 1750, as Mr. McRae said. I also want to, commend the security department. Again, first time publicly we can say something since March 13th. They, as Mr. McRae said, that they've been exceptional. They really have done a wonderful job in our school buildings, but they've done something too that's kind of unsung. And I want to take a moment just to thank the security guards. What we had really from March straight through the summer, we were distributing, upwards of 60, 70, 90,000 meals per week to the community. And really at every single building, the security guards were actually a critical part of the distribution of those meals. They literally helped in every facet. And it really was wonderful to see the security guards, carrying bundles and giving them to community members, back and forth between the cafeteria and to the cars, and the cafeteria to the cars. And they did that in the rain, the sunshine, and they did it with a smile on their face. And it really, really was remarkable. And no one asked them to, because it's actually kind of out of their job description, but they insisted, and it really, really was beautiful. And then one other thing, I have to say that Mr. McRae is just exceptional. Unfortunately, my wife thinks I'm carrying on an affair, doesn't believe that Byron is actually Byron. She's wondering why I'm waking up at 1 o'clock in the morning whispering in my cell phone. That's because Mr. McRae is really, actually, to tell you the truth, I don't think he ever sleeps, in all honesty. And I'm not the only one who says that. He answers his phone all throughout the night. And it's not just me. He calls the principals. He speaks to teachers. He works with Susan Averso, our nurse practitioner. He took on a job that he actually really took it on himself. And that's our COVID coordinator, if you will, and our contact tracer. And he answers emails, phone calls. He's on the camera system, tracking whether a student or a staff member was in a room for X amount of time. And we have literally thousands of cameras that he has to scan through. And then he makes a recommendation as to who should be quarantined. He errs on the side of caution all the time. He really has been just remarkable, and we would be nowhere without, we'd be sunk without Mr. McRae. Really an exceptional job. He was exceptional as the second in command, and now in command of the department. I think we're absolutely blessed to have him. And I'm very grateful as a superintendent to have him as the lead in this at this very critical time.
Mr. Listener, I mean, I don't think you could have said it any better. And on behalf of the board, thank you so much, Mr. McRae. I have firsthand knowledge of how it is that you have managed all of this for us. And this just goes to just this idea that, that every part of the district is important, no matter, whether or not we see them and whether or not, they are, front and center. This is a machinery where all of the parts are important. We just had Buildings and Grounds present, nothing but accolades there. We have security and the head of security right now before us. Again, we can't have the teachers doing their work. We can't have the administrators doing their work without all of the foundational work that both of these departments bring to the table. And it's just, you know, we're so we are so dependent on each other, and I really, you know, I know that there are a lot of I guess a lot of things that, you know, that have disappointed certain community members, you know, and that, you know, I know that there have been, you know, a lot of questions being asked as to, you know, are we really, you know, getting it done right? You know, just from my perspective, as I'm sitting here as the board, in my conversations with all the board members, my conversations with administration, Mr. Lotion and Ms. O'Connor, you know, we have done remarkably well considering all of the circumstances that we've been through. And to that point, Mr. McCray, it really has been one of our greatest picks in terms of recent appointments. We humbly thank you for everything that you're bringing to the table. And so on behalf of the board, thank you. Thank you very much. Thank you very much.
And we're going to give him a fourth person, right? A fourth security guard at the freshman center?
Yeah, so to Mr. Safiri's point, I just, I had one more question, and maybe this is something that you and admin has already, you've already discussed. I know that other companies out there, when they, prior to hiring employees, because of the cost of some of the extensive training, they have employment agreements in place. And the one that comes to mind is I thought that Suffolk Bus Company had an employment agreement where they would do the training, they would actually work with the potential driver to get their CDL, but then the employee had to sign an employment agreement. I believe it was a couple of years, and don't quote me on this, but is that something that the district has ever considered? Is that something that we could look into? So if we're going to give you all this training and we're going to work to get you these, you know, I believe that, you know, you have to have the security guard license or security officer's license. Is there something that we could do to make sure that, you know, that we're at least getting something in return, even if we are going to a higher rate of pay for some of these individuals, you know, and that, you know, bringing up the bottom. Is that something that we've ever looked into?
Well, before anyone answers that question, I just want to explain to you the sub-calling. Their responsibility is very minimal. They only get 8 to 16 hours a week contractually. We can't. So if they find another job that's going to pay them and give them more hours, why would we want to hold them back?
Okay. Okay.
So in that situation, I don't think it's a good idea to put a sub-calling under an agreement and hold them from going elsewhere because, you know, we can't give them the over 16 hours because of the agreement we have with the
Understood.
Okay?
Understood. I completely understand that. Yep. Okay. Does anybody have any other questions for Mr. McCray?
No, but we are going to give him a fourth security guard, right?
I'm absolutely in favor of it. I mean,
That's what I want to make sure.
Yep. I mean,
Okay.
I mean, that would be up to, you know, the board after we get through these budget workshops, you know,
All
so
right, I
that
just
we're,
want to make sure how it works. Okay.
yep. So, any other questions for Mr. McCray from the board members?
No.
Ms. O'Connor, is there anything that you'd like
No.
to add?
Thank you,
Oh.
Byron, for everything.
Thank you so much.
Thank you, Byron.
Thank you, Byron.
Thank you.
Thank you, Byron.
No problem.
Okay, then we'll continue on with our handout, and that brings us to the 5510 area, which is transportation. We have Eric Harlan with us here, who that's one of his many hats that he wears, the transportation department. So just give me a sec to show the screen, Eric, and then we'll start with that. Okay.
All right. Good evening, everyone. Board members, Superintendent, Mr. Lochner, Ms. O'Connor, thank you for this opportunity to present the transportation budget this evening, as well as the community watching out there. I'd like to start also, I think I'd be remiss if I didn't mention the wonderful staff we have in the transportation department between Lucille, Andrina, and Nell, who do a wonderful job on a day-to-day basis, holding the department together, dealing with all the situations that arise in the transportation office, as well as our DA Supervisor Myrna and all our wonderful DAs who ride the buses all day and deal with some extenuating circumstances that are never easy, and Also, I'd like to thank Suffolk Bus for all that they do in helping transport our students safely to school, as well as their drivers, who happen to have quite a few community members who drive. I'd like to start out at 5510, 1500, excuse me, 1600. That's non-instructional salaries. You can see we've saved a considerable amount of money in that code in 2021 compared to 1920. I'm looking for an 18.46% increase, which is $36,842, to hopefully provide some support personnel that could assist us in the day-to-day routing of our buses. Moving on to the overtime code, we're not looking for an increase this year. We seem to be able to handle that with our current allocation. Our CSEA bus monitors, we've been working hard to hire more school bus monitors, or otherwise known as driver's assistants. We're looking for an 8.71% increase here due to contractual increases, and we've been working hard. I think this year we brought on 11 more additional DAs. Some DAs we hired directly through Suffolk Transportation. We're trying to get away from that since we could like to have better control over our DAs, as well as we're able to get them at a better price if we hire them in-house. Not to mention we'll be able to hire people from our community to assist on the buses. So that represents an increase there. Moving to 5510, 1910, these are just extra hours. This is, we're asking for an increase here. Unfortunately, due to COVID, we've had quite a few of our driver's assistants having to quarantine. And we've had other DAs who've had to come in and pick up shifts or routes or runs to assist us. We're hoping that will drop, but we're looking for an increase to cover that as we increase our staff as well in that area. 5510, 4460, we're going to hold the same. That's really just for the cell phone for the office, for the transportation office. 5510, 4900, that's transportation BOCES. I know that'll be going into in a little more depth as we move through the budget process. We're looking for a slight increase of $1,000, 4.55%. Here's where we buy our transportation routing software known as Edgelog. Moving on to 5510, 5,000, materials and supplies. We're looking, seems like a big percentage increase of 26.32, but in terms of dollars, it's $625 just to keep up with our office supplies and materials, our past expenditures. In years past, we've used to purchase bus cameras out of this code. Fortunately, we have 100% camera coverage on all of the bus fleet, but there are still some additional items that may need servicing or may break down. So we're looking for a small increase in that code. Moving to the 5540, 4,000 area, this is our contractual transportation codes. 5540, 4001 is for our large buses, our 9-hour large buses. We're looking for, if you look down the code, we're basically looking for 1.4% increase across the board. If we are fortunate enough to renew the contract with Suffolk, we usually do it at the cost of CPI. We're hoping that this should be sufficient to cover it in most codes as you go through it. Moving 5540, 4002, 6-hour large buses, again, a 1.4% increase. 5540, 4005, essentially a 1.4% increase. 5540, 4007, again, a 1.4% increase. And 5540, 4104. This is our out-of-district vans for private and parochial schools. We're looking for a 1.4% increase. 5540, 4106, transportation special contract individual services. Again, a 1.4% increase. And 5540, 4108, transportation special residential. We're looking for a bigger increase here of 6.935%. I'm going to look at that a little closer. Then we're going to interscholastic athletics, 5540, 4002. Again, this budget was put together assuming, hoping, wishing that we will get back to normal come next fall, where we could be full in school, all students, and that's how we budgeted this moving forward. With any luck and with the vaccination rollout, I'm hoping that we'll be able to get there so that we can provide the services to our students and our community that they deserve. A 5540, 4003, curricular activities. This is for any field trips or things that are taken through the course of the year. Again, hopefully we'll get back to normal. We'll be able to provide field trips for the kids. That's just at the high school level, but the additional code 5540, 4350 is field trips for the rest of the district. And then again, for bilingual, then we have a code 5540, 4430, which is BE transportation. That's for our student worker program. Sometimes they get opportunities off-site where we'll provide transportation for them to get to those opportunities. A 5540, 4453 is music and band. Again, hopefully we'll have a music and band program that will be able to travel. I know they've done wonderful things up at Syracuse, as well as some of the traveling competitions that they do engage in. And hopefully that will be back to normal as well next year. For fuel, 5540, 4005. I'm anticipating a slight increase in the cost of fuel. We're looking for a 5.26% increase in that code. This is the fuel that we use we have what we call a wet contract with Suffolk, where we provide the diesel fuel for all the buses based on the mileage that they run. And that's what that fuel goes to. We did add a new code this year as a result of McKinney-Vento, so we could track our costs and expenditures as it relates to McKinney-Vento students. That's the homeless population that we service. So we did create that code of 5540, 4400, and it'll help us better track and bill other districts when we can for these services that we provide. 5550, 4000, public services, 5000 is just a general code that we use if we need to provide any additional transportation services above and beyond what we're already doing. Where's the list? The last one is the contingency code A 5599 4000. We've historically always budgeted 150,000. What you're not seeing here is it shows no expenses, but we do transfer from that code to other codes as we may need the funds. So that's what this money is for contingencies in the event that we run into any unanticipated expenditures within the transportation budget. That concludes basically the transportation presentation. I'd like to ask if any of our board members or anybody has any questions that I'd be happy to answer.
I'm good.
Mr. Carlin, I guess at some point, I don't know if this is a question for Ms. O'Connor. Mr. Carlin, we had thought about, how it was that we could combine some of the bus routes because of the very few kids that were getting on some of these buses during the day. Did that ever come to fruition? I mean, when we looked at it, did you ever get a chance to take a look at it and see, what that was like?
That's a very good question and a very valid question. In our large buses this year, we're down currently 7 buses, but there has been a shift. We, in the past, had 17 more 6-hour buses and 10 less 9-hour buses. It's shifted. Now we have 17 less big 6-hour buses and more 9-hour buses. And the result of that is because of our kindergarten model, where we're doing half full day, half hybrid day, it's requiring a midday run. So we've had to bump a number of the 6-hour buses up to 9-hour buses. And of course, 9-hour buses are a little bit more expensive than 6-hour buses. So in that regard, I think we've kind of stayed pretty level. We've saved maybe $500,000. But for the most part, it was just a shuffling around from the 6 to 9-hour buses there. In our in-district and out-of-district buses, which are usually minivans, we've pretty much stayed stable. That services our private and parochial population, which I think has increased a little bit as a result of this for some parents who have the means and ability to send their kids to private and parochial schools that can provide 5-day-a-week instruction. That's the out of district, and the in district, of course, is here. And the mini buses are not like a big bus, whereas maybe a big bus was loaded with 35, 40 kids. You cut a big bus in class in half that could transport, say 44 kids, now you're down to 20, 22 kids. With the mini buses before, you're only getting 10 kids. So now you cut that down with space behind the driver, and you're down to 5 kids on a bus to 8, depending on the size of the bus. And of course, if there's family members, we could have them sit together as well. So where we thought we might see some savings for in-district and out-of-district minis, we've actually stayed relatively stable, but it is something that we continue to look at, and that I'd like to look at a little bit more to see if there's some way that we could possibly reduce those routes or but again, it's always tough, and it always helps when there's family, people from the same household, so that we could have them sit together. But otherwise, if it's not, it's, we're really kind of running pretty much the same type of scenario that we did in a non-pandemic year, just because of the limitations on the number of kids that we can have on a bus.
Yeah, and the point that you made about the kindergarten was something that I overlooked completely, because that added a whole new route to something that didn't exist last year. So the point is very well made. I'm going to just jump in there, Mr. Lotion, ahead of you. I know that this is what you're going to say. This is where. So, Mr. Carland, I know that we have just given tremendous accolades to the previous 2 departments as a whole, but I know that in this particular case, it has been you, primarily taking on the responsibility of transportation purchasing agent and Miss O'Connor's ace, because I know that that's what you've been throughout the years, and I just wanted to extend a tremendous amount of appreciation from the Board of Education to you in particular, and I know that you count on all of your staff, everybody who's your subordinate in these particular fields. So to them, a great big thank you also. And I just want to echo what Mr. Lotionis has said multiple times, and what I've tried to interject is that each one of these departments, each one of these operational disciplines is as important as everything else that we do in this district. And one doesn't work without the other. It requires a tremendous amount of discipline, leadership, and focus. And I think that is exactly what you brought to the table this year. So thank you very much for everything that you have contributed this year. Mr. Lotion, and now it's all yours. Go ahead. You can do the follow-up.
That was terrific. Actually, I couldn't have said it better, but I'll just expand on it a little bit, because I'm not sure if the public knows. You did explain it well, but what we did was we consolidated some positions, and obviously Miss O'Connor and I met with Mr. Carland over the summertime, and we asked him about taking over purchasing and transportation, and he did it without blinking an eye. Said, yes, I'll do it, no problem. And as you could tell by his presentation, he's already beyond up to speed in terms of purchase, in terms of transportation, the same as in purchasing. He really has he really has done a remarkable job taking over 2 departments, as well as his other work that he has not missed a beat with. And there's something that people might not realize that I just found out again today. I get these little snippets about how Eric has negotiated contracts with different vendors, and he does it very quietly, and he doesn't obviously ask for any praise. But just this morning, I found out, he negotiated with our carting contractors who were looking for additional money, and he stepped in and negotiated with them to keep the money the same, even though they were asking for additional monies. And he actually does that without, telling me or Miss O'Connor, and he is always looking out for the Brentwood community to make sure that, we save as much money as possible. In these ways that really are kind of thankless ways, but really spell big bucks to this community, which allows us to offer additional services. So really, Eric has been just remarkable. He always has been. And then to take on these 2 departments so selflessly, I don't know what we'd do without him. And it really has helped the running of the district to have someone there that's incredibly competent and just steps in and does it. So I'm extremely grateful, and I know you guys are as well.
Sure.
Thank you.
Are there any questions from the board members on the presentation?
Can I just piggyback off what you and Mr. Lotion had mentioned? Having worked for the district for 20, almost 30 years, we've always had, our operations area has always been fantastic. And without our operations people, the district couldn't run. So kudos to Eric, to Mike Cruz and all the other supervisors. They're the best. And I can't say anything more about them than just kudos to them, because they're the kind of, we need teachers and administrators, but our non-certificated or operational supervisors and the people that work for them are fantastic. And I know, Rich, you would agree with me, so.
Absolutely. No, I completely agree. No, we are very, very fortunate, in this district to have such competent people. Really fortunate.
Yep.
Yeah, and I'll definitely second that. I am extremely fortunate with the staff that I have. They're all phenomenal. And one of the things that might have been overlooked in transportation this year, like some areas, they had challenges and they were obvious to everybody, buildings and grounds had to do the extra cleaning. Byron, who took on the contact tracing, is just amazing with it. Transportation had to figure out how to route these kids, and with our partner in Suffolk Transportation, had to make the software work, which wasn't made, to transport different students on different days. And Eric was just instrumental in putting that together and figuring that out, how we can actually make this happen and get the right kids to the right schools on the right days. And then when we do a virtual day, okay, we shut down one school, but sometimes that leads to another school and another school, or we've had virtual days at the high school, but we have BOCES kids who meet there. So we have to pick up the BOCES kids, but not the other kids. I mean, it's just been the change and just the grace that transportation has shown has just been amazing. There's a term, jack of all trades, master of nothing. I'd say Mr. Carlin is a jack of all trades, master of all, though. I don't know how he pulls that off, but I couldn't thank you enough, Eric. You're terrific.
I appreciate it. I'm welling up. But no, thank you. I appreciate it, everyone. I truly do.
Thank you, Eric.
And Stacy does an amazing job. I'd be remiss if I didn't say that she's, while we're all
We know
working
that already.
hard, she's doing quite a bit to keep it all together as well. So, and that's always appreciated.
Thank
you for mentioning that. Any questions on the presentation? No? Thank you so much, Mr. Carlin.
Thank you.
Have a great day.
Thank you, Eric.
Thank
We
you.
have one more area that we're going to cover tonight, and that one's all mine. It's benefits. I will share the screen. Okay, so we'll start with our ERS, which is the Employees Retirement System. So that's the retirement system for the operational people, pretty much everybody we've talked about tonight. And that's going up almost 15%. There is quite a large increase in the rate itself. That's what's driving that. It's a minor increase to the salaries, all in all, but it's the actual ERS employer's contribution that's going up there. Just about 2 percentage points. Oddly enough, you need it to go up 2 percentage points, and anything above that could be an exclusion for our property tax cap. So it's right at 2. So there's a limited exclusion at the tier 1 rate, but it's about $1,500. It's not going to amount to much. So that's what's driving that rate. We go down to our 90/20 area, which is the teacher's retirement system. So that's the retirement system for all of our certificated staff, our TAs, our administrators, and our teachers. We have an estimated rate right now for next year. Our current year's rate is 9.53%. That's in this school year. The estimated rate for next year is 9.5% to 10%. So somewhere in that range, and TRS is very good about actually ending up within that range. So that's driving the 7.65%. We should have the more solid rate usually in the beginning of February. So next week, the following week, the absolute latest. Although the rate by TRS isn't actually finalized until the summer, until August. Again, the rate that they give us in February, they've always hit in August. And just back to ERS for a minute, because the TRS rate, you see, isn't going up very much. The TRS rate, I'm surprised it is going up to 2 percentage points, because the stock market is so strong and it's based on investments, you know, quite a bit. And when I say 2 percentage points with ERS, I mean points. If you take an 8.1% rate, go up to 10.2% rate, that's two percentage points, but it's actually a much higher percentage if you actually calculate it out. It is in the range of 12%, actually, if you calculate it out overall within all the tiers. Social Security, FICA, which is the 90-30 area, there's a 2.57% increase. That's strictly due to salaries going up. Those rates are staying the same, the employer contribution rates. Brings us to our workers' comp. We are seeing an increase there. If you look at the expenditures in 1920, it was quite high. So we're just trying to make that so we stay within the budget there. We're having a little bit better year this year. Life insurance goes with disability insurance, which is a couple lines down, and those rates are staying the same. So we try to lock that in for 3 years at a time, and we have. So we're still in the middle of that agreement. And then we'll go out, you know, again and get some quotes, but we're good for that for now. Now, unemployment insurance, it looks like there's not a lot going on here because you could see a 0% increase. We're keeping that flat. But if you look at the expenditures already this year, 402,000. Last year, which really was all the last quarter after the shutdown, 381,000. What we're seeing there actually is a lot of fraudulent claims. So we are getting credits for those back now. But when you if somebody initially files for unemployment and gets approved, you know, they have the documents and stuff that they needed to get approved. We do have to pay that. We contest it. And, you know, we send the documents we have. So we do eventually get the credits for it. But initially, we have to lay out the money and then wait to get it back from unemployment.
That's the one that I called you about, Stacy?
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Yep. That brings us to disability. I covered with life insurance. No change there. Our health insurance. HIP, which is health insurance plan, that's our less used plan, I'll say, is going up about 5% on the rate. The Empire plan for the start of the year is this year, actually. That goes by a calendar year, not a school year. So for the 2021 year, it's the 3% increase on the Empire plan. So we're able to keep that relatively flat, even though the rate is going up. We've done well in that code in the past. What we do have to increase is this here, and that is the health insurance opt-out or payout if you don't take health insurance. You could see traditionally year after year, we've just, you know, we haven't hit our mark yet. So we've under budgeted. Our expenditures have been over budget. So we're bringing that up to go more in line with our expenditures. As the health insurance rates go up, the amount of reimbursement goes up as well, typically. Our dental plan claims, again, going up just $100,000. If we look at our expenditures in 1920, once things kind of shut down, the end of the school year, we saw very little in terms of dental bills. So we were well under budget in 1920. But we are seeing those expenditures start to rise now. I guess people are getting more comfortable going out. The dental work that they put off in this year, they're now experiencing in this year. So we do see a need for an increase moving forward. Hopefully it's only temporary until everybody, you know, kind of catches up, you know, with their cleanings and everything. So hopefully in the following year, we can bring that down again. It's certainly something that we'll watch. The Health and Welfare Fund is a fixed amount per employee, so our staff is remaining stable, so this will remain stable as well. Our prescription drug and vision with CSEA. That rate has remained relatively stable as well. We've actually had some difficulties finding staff there, so our expenditures, are a little bit lower than the budget, but we'll keep that the same. If anybody wants to be a TA, a monitor, come see us. Bus monitor, please come see us. BCA Vision Plan, we've been doing well there, so we'll keep that the same. The Employee Assistance Program, we had a slight rate increase this year. And that program does, some good things for our employees who may be in need, just need a little help, need somebody to talk to. We encourage people to do so, and they can call HR to get any information on that plan as needed. Interest on bonds. We actually moved all of our principal and interest into the transfer to debt service fund down here, but we'll talk about this code first. Transfer to special aid fund. We saw a decrease, if you look, $1 million decrease in the 2021 school year. That's due to moving our EIP kids out to other schools. They'll still get the services of the early intervention program. These are our preschoolers who have maybe some special needs. They'll do it in other locations, which quite a few were doing that anyway. So the final phase-in of that will come into this budget, so we can bring that down, quite a bit, the $400,000. And then the transfer to debt service, we used to budget this on the codes, a couple lines up. But our auditors, preferred that we do a transfer into debt service fund and then pay our debt service from that other fund. The debt service is basically our mortgage on any of the construction that we're doing throughout the district. And I know this seems odd. It's going down $675,000, which is considerable. And we're doing construction, right? We're doing the energy performance contract. We talked about the solar at East Middle School. We have pillars at South Middle School. We're starting at West Middle pretty soon. But we had added this money into the budget to when we anticipated we'd do a borrowing, like you borrow your mortgage. When we anticipated we'd borrow for the bond, and we had added a little bit too much on the interest side. The principal, we knew how much it was. We thought we'd have to pay a little bit more in interest. So we're able to bring that down now that we've done the actual borrowing. So we're in good shape there. So that is the end of our benefits. I welcome any questions that anybody has.
Ms. O'Connor, so I know that we've talked about this in the past and you just slightly went over it. Are we still hiring TAs?
Absolutely.
Yeah, so one of the things I think that was brought up at one of our previous board meetings was a question from a community member in terms of, why not continue to use and hire and use TAs to supplement what it is that teachers are doing in their classrooms to kind of give them an assist. And I believe that Mr. Lochner responded to, look, we can't hire enough. That continues to be the case.
That continues to be the case island-wide, unfortunately. Substitute teachers, TAs, monitors. Yeah, it's amazing that transportation is up in the driver's assistants. But yeah, the TAs are very hard to come by right now.
Yeah, I mean, I would suspect that the drivers, bus drivers, feel safer. I think that it is a part of what it is that we're experiencing in terms of these adults who are interacting with the public, feeling safe. And I think that maybe at some level, bus drivers might feel a little safer, and that's why they're not experiencing that. That's just a guess. I just wanted to throw that out there because it's some of these things are not because we're not trying and because or because the Board of Education or administration is not doing their best to put their the best foot forward. It is just a reality that we're living with, and unfortunately, this is just one of those situations. Does anybody have any questions for Ms. O'Connor? No. Just in terms of, I don't know if you could address this at all. What about the a little further out this year? Can you give us an update in terms of, what's being said in terms of, this year and then projections for next year? Is that possible on this side specifically?
On the expenditure side?
On the benefit side, on the expenditure side, exactly, yep. If anything at all, I don't mean to put you on the spot, but if there's anything that you could add to that.
I'd answer any specific questions, but not really.
Okay. Any questions from anybody else?
I'm good.
All right. So again, I just want to thank everybody, that has presented and everything that you are all doing. Ms. O'Connor, Mr. Lochner, again, Mr. Carlin, and all the administrators at Central. I just think that it's unfortunate that we are in the circumstances that where we are, but I do believe that we are, doing everything that we can with what we have. And we just gave a great example, in terms of, the TAs. They're just not there. They're just not available to the district. And but we'll get through this, and we will, I think, thrive because of it. So with that being said, Ms. Lochner, I did want to just touch on something that you sent some information to the board a little earlier on two matters. We've had multiple conversations about the interactive technology that is available in the school district. We did ask about trying to get a count on where we were. We wanted to see what we could do to make that a priority this year and not wait for years to come, just really just do everything that we can to get the support into the teachers' hands as quickly as we could. We made sure that we made personal devices for students a priority, not knowing where this budget was going to land. We did commit to that as a board, and I believe that we have fulfilled that promise. And now we are at the point where we have to continue along that path, looking that, seeing that the additional monies might be there, and that some of these decisions that we've made have resulted in good financial position for the district. You sent us some information that really makes interactive technology, specifically with Aquas boards, within our reach. And I just wanted to and I know that the number that I'm going to give you is still questionable, but I believe that from what I saw, with a $1.3 million investment, we could basically bring all of our classrooms up to snuff when it comes to interactive technology available for the teachers at the Aquas board level, which is what we believe is the gold standard. Is that a summary of where we might be, Mr. Lochner?
Yeah, it is. And, I appreciate the board, weighing in on this, and I appreciate the support. And yes, you had asked me to put together a report. Obviously, I asked Ms. Chang. She put together a report for the board. And we are at about 80%, if I'm not mistaken, of our classrooms do have some interactive technology, whether it's a smart board, an Enos board, or an Aquas board. And we just purchased another 70, and we're probably about another 70, 75 away from actually having all of our classrooms having an Aquas board or a smart board or an Enos board.
Board, yep.
Yeah. An interactive board. So yeah, with the board's blessing, we will, happily, purchase what needs to be purchased and get them in as quickly as possible and push them out. Obviously, our IT department, as I've said, every single, month, they're doing an exceptional job. They've already pushed out about 12,500 laptops as they continue to image. And they've, also pushed out quite a bit of interactive technology. And they're doing an exceptional job, but I'm sure they'll be thrilled to hear that the board is supporting this initiative, and I think it's great. So we'll work on those numbers, and I certainly will send that to you as quickly as possible. Although it's really, you actually did the math yourself in the report, so that it's there.
Yeah, no, and I think the information that was sent over by you and Ms. Chang was absolutely detailed enough for us to really wrap our minds around how close we could be to bringing the district, to this modern age of technology, and really, I mean, what we're talking about, and just correct me if I'm wrong, part of that assessment that Ms. Chang gave us was not only filling where it is, filling for classrooms that don't have any interactive technology, but also updating the smart boards with Aquas boards. And that was, I believe, something within our reach. And boy, if we could, as a board and as administrators of, partnership with the administration, if we could get this district to that point, and that would be our, start line for the following school year, I just say that is just a phenomenal place for us to be, where we have, the students with the technology that they need, but we also have our teaching staff with the tools that they need to provide effective instruction. Am I summarizing this correctly, Mr.
Yeah,
Oshner?
no, I absolutely. And that's why, the board did ask for those numbers. And obviously the reason you did is because you want to support this. So I think it's terrific. So yeah, you're right. I mean, virtually all of our classes will have an Aquas board. The smart board, I think I mentioned to you that Ms. Chang and her department they do an exceptional job repairing the older smart boards, because they're really actually terrific models. It's really the Enos boards, as they begin to falter, we'll probably remove them and put the Aquas boards in there, because they're really, much better.
Yeah, so I just want to make sure that we're clear that we're not having 100% Aquas boards. We're going towards 100% interactive, which includes some smart boards that
Exactly.
are still functional.
Right. The smart boards are they were kind of the new interactive board many years ago.
Mhm.
But as Ms. Chang has told me many times, that they really are incredible units, that they are easily repaired. We have quite a bit of extra supplies on hand. So if one does break down, we have the necessary parts to fix it. So she's very happy with that. And then the Aquas boards, obviously, those are newer, and those are, those will be put into the classrooms. The Enos boards are the ones that, as I said, as they begin to break down or falter, we won't repair them. We'll put new Aquas boards in there.
Ms. Burgos, I know that Mr. Loshner sent this to us
Mhm.
recently in the last couple of days. I don't know if you were able to look at the details on it. But
Yes, I did.
the reason why I'm bringing this up is because when I was referencing the $1.3 million, the 1.3 actually, from what I understood in terms of what I was reading on the Excel spreadsheet, would include bringing all classrooms up to the Aquas board level.
For next year? Is that what you're saying?
Yes, exactly. That's what I'm saying. So that's the number. I mean, I'll look at it again, and maybe we should. I'm sure that we'll discuss this again when we are bringing the technology piece forward as part of this budget process. But I believe that number included, bringing all of the classrooms up to that level. So
I didn't get that. I just wanted to clarify that, because I don't want any teacher to think she's getting an Aquas board when she's not, or she or he. So, I think the numbers we got were for this year, though, right? Mr. Lochner, those are the numbers as far as where we stand now.
It's where we stand now, and what would we would need in order to get to 100%. That part, I don't want to misspeak and mislead the public or the Board of Education in terms of replacing the Enos boards and bringing all of us up to having a smart board or an Aquas board. So I don't want to mislead. I'd have to go back into the report and take a look.
Absolutely. So maybe if we can, whenever it is technology's turn to present, if we could
they did already
vet that information out, so that we are presenting proper information. I from what I saw and from what I understood in the report, I thought that this was certainly within our reach, and I thought that it was something that we should give consideration to, so that we are you know, moving into a 21-22 school year with just really, I mean, you know, cutting edge technology for our teachers to be able to teach and for our students to be able to learn.
Maybe we can clarify that now, because I really am somewhat confused. I'm not sure that that is what we were talking about. So maybe I'm wrong, but if somebody could just help me out here. I just thought that we were aiming towards, of course, we know that aqua boards are the gold standard, but based on what Mr. Lochner just said, that, you know, the smart boards are still functional and we have the repair parts. I wasn't
Yeah.
aware that we were going to replace those as well.
No, I don't think, yeah, we're not going to replace those. I don't know if Mr. Feliciano meant that. I'm not sure what,
That's what I thought he meant.
Oh,
Okay,
Yeah,
okay.
you know
because
what,
you said
Ms.
100%
Lochner,
aqua sports, and
Oh,
I don't think
100%
that's
Aquas
accurate.
boards?
Yes.
Mr. Lochner, so what I did was I believe that it's the second page of the report that was sent over, or at the
Was there a
top of the Excel spreadsheet. I
I'm gonna
believe
look
that
at it
there
again,
was
yeah, 'cause-
a summary of what it would cost.
Okay, I'm just
Keep in
gonna go
mind
to the
that-
report.
The cost on that report was for the equipment only. We have to keep in mind the staffing to actually install these
Right.
aqua sports. We're just not at the level that we could install aqua
Mhm.
sports, replace all of them, you know, for the 1.3 million or whatever that number is. I'm not looking at it right now. And get everything else done. So we have to keep that in mind as well. That was only an equipment number.
Yep,
What I thought.
understood.
But it wasn't for 100% aqua sports, right? I mean, I don't think that's
That number
where
was
we're
there,
at.
Julie. It was there. I don't recall what it is, but it was definitely on the chart.
I'm
100%
just
aqua
looking
sports.
now, folks. I'm looking now, and it's the district will have. I'm looking at that last as we replacing them with.
So the electricity also that's a whole different ballgame right there. Updating the electricity so you have this technology available.
It's a great point too. Yeah, there'll be classrooms where we have to, you know.
Because you mentioned there was a decrease of 100,000 for electricity, but I would assume we would be using more electricity and then repairing and, you know, the labor as well. That's gonna.
The electricity usage would go up, you're right, but there'll be cases where we can't install a board unless we upgrade the electric to that classroom. At
Exactly.
times, that has meant installing new sub panels of electricity, and that alone for one sub panel could be, you know, over $12,000. So we'd have to look at that as well. Our aging buildings were never meant to have all of this technology, so that's another hidden cost, besides the equipment cost.
Stacy, would this be able to be done in-house, meaning have our electricians do this job?
Sure, we have, you know, our electricians who can run the sub panels. We have our IT guys, electronics guys who can, you know, put together the aqua sports. So yeah, this is pretty much all in-house.
So I have another question. I'm looking at the Excel sheet now. I had looked at the list prior.
Right.
So I see the 1.3 that Robert is referring to.
Right.
I just want to ask, is this realistic? Because look at where we are now. We're in January, right? We've been trying to do this. I know we've also been, you know, working on computers for students, but is it realistic that we will be able to replace all the older technology as well by next year and have all aqua sports?
Well, I think that's what, you know, Stacy was saying is that we have, you know, it's definitely something we could certainly purchase, whether we have the manpower to finish up imaging all of the laptops, distributing them to the buildings. And then we have, you know, as I said, we just purchased another 70 Aquas boards that we intend on pushing out to the buildings as quickly as possible. But that all does take a tremendous amount of time.
Right. But that was for this year. Like those numbers we got in this report were this year. The projection here is for next year. So I'm wondering what the timeline is. You know, where are we going to come to the point where we will have these, you know, aqua sports installed? Are we looking at October, January, or May of next year? More or
You
less.
know what? I don't want to, obviously that would be a question for Stacy because I'm sorry, for Candace, because she does, you know, she has an idea how long each one of these boards takes to put on a cart, push out to a building, install properly in the building. So I'd really have to let her answer it. It is though correct what you're getting to, Julie, and that is that it's not realistic to say that every single classroom at the end of this year will have them all. It really
Right.
does spill into next year. And I'll let Candace give exactly when, next year they'll all be installed.
So what I was trying to get to is absolutely, and I appreciate everything that you're all saying. What I'm saying is that at the very least, this year, we should have, really within the next, a couple of months, we should have no classroom that needs that interactive technology to go without. I think that that's something that we've already, we've already put ourselves on that path with the 75 that we've purchased, and will continue to purchase to make sure that all classrooms have some sort of interactive technology. And I understand what you're saying, Julie. I'm saying that if we don't make it a commitment now, then pushing that down and making that a reality.
But I'm not
next year.
saying that, Robert. That's not what I'm
Yep.
saying either.
Yep.
I wholeheartedly agree. And I just
Yep.
want to make sure that we're speaking the same language,
Mhm,
and, at the end of this year, we want every teacher to have the interactive. Right now,
Yep.
we don't even own 75 of those units, right? We have the 70 or so that are in the process of getting programmed, and we have to order an additional 75 just to
Right.
bring us to 100%, almost 100% for this year.
Yep.
Right? Because we did exclude, in the report, some maybe art and music classes that may not need them. I think, was part of that.
Yes.
And maybe some libraries.
Right.
So we're talking primarily, some of the other classrooms. So
Yep.
that's all. I'm not saying I don't think it's a great idea. It's a great idea. I just
Yep.
want to be realistic about what the expectation is.
Right.
Absolutely. And I appreciate that. And thank you for bringing that. Mr. Lotion, I know that during this past year, maybe it was something that we did even, the year before, we had withheld some of the building funds, some of the money that goes directly to each building, as a discretionary spending that would be allocated by central. Is this something that, well, what I'm asking is that maybe we should consider, these additional expenses that Ms. O'Connor brought up, as part of, the allocation of that money, so that we can do this in a responsible manner. I mean, I know that the electrical upgrades in the buildings are usually something that, maybe a principal will not, tend to look at. But can we keep that in mind as we move forward? And I don't know if we're going to continue to try to use that same ideology this year in terms of the individual building aid.
Yes, actually, yes, we're doing the same thing. Actually, I started that, I believe, 3 years ago, and we're continuing it this year, taking a percentage from every building and keeping that in a budget code to handle some of the things that we're speaking about right now. So no, that's absolutely, exactly true. We are doing that.
Is that
Great.
an incremental increase every year? Is that like every year they lose a little more at the building level?
No, it's the same percentage as last year. Yeah, no, we haven't increased it. It's still, I think it's 10 or 12% that we've taken from each building. And the principals have been terrific. We've spoken to them about it. And the reason being is obviously people have benefited, buildings have benefited from it. Last year, if you recall, we replaced all of the middle school lockers, which they were really original lockers to the building. So good 40 to 50-year-old lockers. And because of those discretionary money that we took from every building, we replaced all of the middle school lockers. So we're pretty excited about that. And that's what we intend to do with all of this money that we save every single year. And obviously this year was a little bit different, and I'm sure we used quite a bit of it for technology.
So I just have a technical question. Is that money put aside in a separate budget line and then used for projects like you just mentioned?
Yeah.
And it's not distributed among the different departments? So
Nope,
it's separate and it's
it-
used like a contingency kind of?
Yes, no,
project
you're absolutely right.
oriented.
Yeah, it resides in one budget code. Actually, Stacy, do you know the budget code or what we call it?
2110-2000 is where we have it.
Okay.
But yeah, it's all in that one budget code, and then we can use it as we see fit, as we need it.
Thank you.
Those lockers, Mr. Lochner, they look great, and it gives every single school a different feel, which is nice.
Thank you. Thank you. And I absolutely agree. Yeah, it really, they're beautiful lockers, and it really is a nice upgrade. Absolutely.
Do you have any more questions for board members?
No.
Thank you. So Ms. O'Connor, if you could, if maybe we could have Ms. Chang clarify or look into some of the things that we're talking about now in greater detail, so that when that presentation is made, maybe we could continue this conversation and really try to map out a plan to, it's going to be more than 1 year, but at least we'll be on the road to getting that done.
Sure, we can work on that.
We have questions from the community, but I also have one from the community that I want to bring up, and it's the last one. I get
Sure.
a lot of phone calls about this and complaints about the time of our meeting. I know a while ago it was convenient for certain people, but for other certain people, nobody ever complained when it was the way it used to be. And this is getting, 4:30 to start a meeting. People are working. It's just not fair.
Yeah, question
I don't
came in,
think
but
it's fair for us either.
yeah, I was going to bring it up. We're actually missing at least one board member because, she was still working at the time that the meeting started. I'm not
We're
sure,
missing two.
Well, we're missing two, but I know that Eileen, did say that, she
But
was
we
working.
also
I'm
have,
not sure. I don't want to
but
speak.
it's not fair that we have board members who were still at work and at a board meeting. I just don't think that's fair.
And I have brought this up many times because I was able to get here today at 4:30, but I'm not always able to. And, for the community, we're from a working class community. We really need to accommodate the needs of the people who should be listening in on these meetings and should be participating. So it's not just for us and our personal needs and reasons, but it is a valid reason from, the members of the community who are stating that it's not a good time for them. So if we could, go back, we used to have the meetings at 7 and at 8 o'clock. And we need to get back to a similar time frame so that people can attend the meetings again. There was another
Absolutely.
question.
Nobody complained ever when there was those times.
Solution, we have additional questions.
No, we didn't get an answer to this, Robert. We can't move on until we really have at least a response. This is just Cindy and myself talking, but we need to really acknowledge that this is not a good time. Are we going
At
to
one
commit
time,
to
I'm
changing
not
it?
trying to throw anybody under the bus, but at one time, I was told that it's convenient for certain board members. And I just don't think that's fair. We ran for this board for a certain time. We knew what time it was going to be, that it was convenient for us. And now all of a sudden, because of everything that happened, it's like the time can't go back to the way it was. And I just don't think it's right.
I think that that's exactly where we are. I think that there is a difference of opinion. And really, what you're talking about is just, a perspective from each one of our own, an opinion from each one of our own perspectives. The one good thing that I can tell you is that all of these meetings are recorded, and
I knew you were going to say that. I
if you-
told everybody you were going to say that. You want to know that? Honestly, that's exactly what I told everybody who messaged me about the time. That's exactly what you were going to say.
so
And
if
that's
you-
what goes to show you it's convenient for you and a few other people. And it's not fair. I'm sorry.
So
It should have been back to the way it was regularly.
So what I was
Not
going
that
to going to say is that they are recorded, and if you do look at the views that we get when you go to the Facebook page, we have now more views and more participation because of the platform that we're using. At a normal board meeting, we may have a handful of community members who are actually being able to see what it is that goes on in this meeting. This platform, I want to say that on a low on a low side is over 1,000 views. So, so
that's,
It still
I
doesn't
do
make
agree
it.
with that, Robert. And I think that even when we go back to regular meetings, I hope that we will be able to live stream them so that if people cannot make the actual meetings, that they can still participate. Because I think that is a wonderful asset and one of the more positive outcomes from this whole coronavirus pandemic for us
That's
as a
a good
district.
idea. I
Yeah.
agree.
I think that's a wonderful thing, but that's
I
different
agree
than the
too, but
time
this,
issue that we're talking about. I still think that there are people who would like to participate live and are not able to. And hand in hand with that, I know there's another question when you get to the questions from the community about the live chat. And this, we've spoken about it before. It's not just being able to watch, what's going on. It shouldn't be so one-dimensional. I would like to return to the time where we can have some interaction from the community, where they can actually feel like they're a part of the discussion that we're having. I feel like right now we're speaking to them, and we're only able to get, the questions for people who are able to get those questions to us at a certain time. So I would like to return to that time where we can have true interaction. Granted, and I know that it's definitely maybe a little more challenging, but I think it's part of our responsibility to be transparent and to be available to the community. And that's really what they have signed on to, what we have signed on to. And I think that's our responsibility to really provide that service, that level of participation from the community, and not really exclude them the way we are now.
well, when it comes to these informal budget workshops, we will have a budget hearing, which is, I'm sure, going to be interactive. Part of what
But why
what
wouldn't
I
we have it now? Why can't we
part
have, what's the rationale for not having it now?
well, I mean, because at the end of the day, I mean, so we have a platform where questions can be sent in. I don't think that we've really, ignored or stepped away from answering these questions. And some of these questions are, sometimes the same week after week after week. I happen to believe that this questions in advance is a really, really good way to be able to get, the information out to all of the communities members who are listening.
that's your opinion, though. That's not the community. That's not what they're asking.
But I don't think
and I
it's
get it.
opinion. I don't see why we can't do both. I agree. I
Really?
think that if people from the community are able to send us their questions ahead of time, we can be maybe a little more prepared, or they can make sure that their questions are going to be addressed. However, I kind of disagree about the budget meeting not being, the sort of like the underlying messages that the
Can't hear you.
Julie, your volume's off.
You're muted, Julie.
touch.
You're muted again.
Yes. My keyboard's very sensitive. I'm sorry, I touched it by mistake. But I don't agree that people should, from the community need to wait till the budget hearing to kind of like be able to express themselves or just send in a question. Just like we have questions as the budget process goes on, I think it's fair to give the community the same opportunity, not for them to have to wait till the following week to kind
For
of
the
question
budget
something.
workshops, Julie, I agree. We should have have the chat open. Someone has to monitor the chat, and those questions should only be about the budget process.
That's
or any
fine, but I'm
questions
okay with that, Paula.
Not about anything else. And I think that can work. I think if we use the chat for questions regarding the budget. I do that when I have my other groups that I belong to.
Mhm.
We have someone actually monitor the chat so that those questions would only be on the subject at hand, which would be right now the budget.
Well, right now it's the budget, but when we have general meetings, it's open to many other subjects. But you're right, somebody does have to monitor it because it's hard to be a part of the meeting and to monitor. I did it for one of our meetings when we were, when we had the chat active, but I loved it. I have to say, I love that interaction with the community. I loved being able to have that one-on-one, time sensitive at the moment conversation. I even followed up with some of the community members after the meeting was over because there was still some unanswered questions. I was able to refer members to, give them phone numbers where they can get their questions answered if we weren't able to answer them during the meeting. I just think that's a necessary part of what we need to do as a board to be able to be open and transparent and available to the community. It doesn't mean we have to answer everyone. And I see your concern, Robert, and certainly we may have a question that we may not be able to answer or that we really need to kind of wrap our heads around. It's okay to say, listen, and we do this, right? We're going to get back to you. And maybe not everybody's happy about that, but it's something we might have to do, at some point. I think and I'm not sure if this is what's driving you, but I know that sometimes the comments can be uncomfortable for us, and that's something that we can, ask for just mutual respect. That if you have a comment that's going to be negative, maybe there's other avenues that you can do that,
But
and
hopefully
if
they'll be public soon and we won't have to worry.
Well, and you know what? And
truthfully, even when we're in public, we
I'm
are
just saying,
sometimes
this is-
confronted by some very uncomfortable or negative comments. So it's something I think we should work on as a community. And this is as good a time as any to start that. And, I think starting with the chat might be a very good way to kind of ease our way into that. And like I said, I just think, for me, I see it as a responsibility.
Yeah, and Julie, you did touch on something that is in the back of my mind. I know that certain board members have been attacked personally, and some of that stuff is just really, really uncalled for. And be that from all sides and to all of us. We are sitting here as volunteers, really trying to do what's best for this community, and there's no doubt that that component is something that just really is just not necessary. So let's give this some thought. Let's find out how it is that we can bring this up. Maybe, and I don't know. Maybe I'm just throwing this out there. Is there a way that we could have chat that becomes filtered through, let's just say the district clerk, so that the public doesn't see the disrespectful component of the public chat, that maybe it's thrown to us privately, so that we can filter out the stuff that's of value, and then just do away with the stuff that's not. So I absolutely would continue to explore this, and maybe we could have a bit of an email exchange in terms of ideas on this, so that we can find a way that's a bit of a compromise.
Yeah,
to the point where you are.
Right, Candace is on, and maybe it's something that she can help us with, managing that piece of the technology. Because, no disrespect to anybody in the community, I totally want everybody to have a voice. But when it becomes disrespectful, I do agree that it's not productive. It doesn't really help the conversation all the time. And I understand people not being happy about certain things, especially during this coronavirus. I'm sure that there's a lot of discontent about different things. And we want to hear it, but there's avenues, it doesn't all have to be always at the board meeting. And sometimes we can address these issues in other platforms that are not necessarily at this particular time. But if this is a time where they come forward, we can kind of work at redirecting that. So.
One of the things I think we should do is really set some guidelines, anything, because this entire board has been attacked. And one of the things we need to do is set some guidelines. If it's not productive, or as you say, some of these attacks should be filtered out, or personal attacks should be filtered out. But one of the things, we have certain rules and a policy that state, even when we go live, that when someone comes to the mic, they have 3 minutes. We need to adhere to that, because this board in some ways is not being respected. When the town board has a meeting, you have 3 minutes, and when your 3 minutes are up, you're done. But
yeah, right.
we allow people to go on and on and on, and that's counterproductive. So we've got to, put some strict guidelines and follow them. And we haven't been doing that.
No, so, and Paula, I do remember, I'm sorry to cut you. I do remember a conversation early on, at least early on when I came on the board, regarding that 3 minute guideline.
Mhm.
And I remember the thought being expressed at the time that we wanted to give people ample opportunity to express themselves. However, I think we're in a situation where we really do need to have guidelines, just like
Yes.
you were saying, that, it's not fair to everyone else because everyone may not have their chance at the mic
Right.
if we let, people dominate the time. So I think maybe this would be a good time to put some of those parameters in place and start to structure ourselves differently, and do it from now. Because, it is important that the community have a say, and I don't want to shut anybody out, but we should structure it so that it's
Agreed. I
And what are
absolutely.
we
in a
gonna do about
positive
the
way.
time of the meeting then? I don't
Well,
think it's
yeah,
fair.
starting with time, that's right. We started this conversation about time,
Right.
and I think that's also a matter of respect towards the community that wants to be involved and can't because now they absolutely do not have the option.
Well, I had mentioned before, I'm retired. Time is sometimes convenient, sometimes it's very inconvenient. But I said that I would leave it up to you guys because any time is good for me.
Yeah, but it's not about us, Paula. I think it's, typical dinner
Well,
time. is-
some people can't because they work, so it's, some of our board members.
But I
But-
just feel that
But it
when we
doesn't
took this
matter.
on, when we all signed and ran for this position,
Right.
we knew what the time was. We knew what time the meeting was. Then you have parents who have kids with sports. What are they gonna do? Not show up for a meeting if their child's in a sport?
Yeah.
Yeah,
You
and
know what I
I
mean?
just,
And then
I
all
just
of a
think we,
sudden, oh, we'll cancel it because of that. No, it's not right. We ran for this position we knew what time the meeting was gonna start. And that's, I don't mind right now, but I just think it needs to go back to the way it was.
so can I bring up something else that's related to this? A lot of times we set a time to start our public meeting and we go over, and that's been sort of like almost the rule lately and not the exception. I'd like to go back to a time where we can stick to those timelines. And if we need to, discuss something further, I remember from my many years of attending board meetings, there were always opportunities for executive sessions after the meeting.
That's
So
right.
that we can respect the public time and come out on time and address, the issues that need to be addressed, and then go back into executive and spend whatever amount of time we need to. Because even today, we set the time of 4:30, and I'm sure there may be some people who went out of their way to be present. We didn't come out till after 4:45. So I just think that's another way that we can show respect and really try and stick to the guidelines.
You're right, Julie. I think with
Timelines.
this COVID and all of some of the questions that we have, it's so much going on. So, it's something to think about, but we do have a lot to discuss beforehand, and in time does kind of get away from us.
Well, why don't we plan differently though? If we know we have a lot, let's not plan to come out at 6 or 6:30. Let's plan for 7 like we used to, or let's plan for 8. If we have a little time, then we have a little extra time. Guess what? We can go to the bathroom. Maybe we can have some dinner ourselves. You know what I mean?
Like, nobody ever
yeah, let's
complains when the
plan
hours were
differently.
that.
I think we're planning for this earlier time and it's not really working for anybody.
No,
Because
it's
we're not
not.
coming out on time. It's not working for the community. Let's think about how we can make it better.
But I think we need more time for exec session because even when we had, we were at the regular time, we still came out late.
Well,
So
Paula, you've been on this board longer than I have, and I'm
Yep.
sure you can probably attest to the fact that there were many times when you've been, asked to go back into executive session after the public meeting. And people may not like that, but I think if it's something that can wait until then, maybe it's worth doing that rather than taking an extra half hour or hour and letting people just wait.
You know what the problem was? Because we let people go over their 3 minutes. So they would go a half hour. Some people even went 45 minutes. So by the time we finished, when we left, we went into exec session after, we would be here to 12:30, 1 o'clock. And that's happened while you were on the board, Julie. So, we've got to let's look at the whole thing, the entire picture, and come up to a solution. I think that's the best way to do it because they're not going to solve it here tonight.
No.
So let's look at everything.
All right, so time is an issue. So we really do need to address it.
And you know what? I'll do is that just at some point in the next couple of days, what I will do is I will just start kind of like a maybe just an email chain where we can just exchange thoughts.
You know,
Even
that's
when
really
we're,
not that legal. I mean, we
no, no,
should
no,
be
no,
having
no,
these
no, 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 no.
conversations in public,
Yeah.
Robert.
Yeah,
But,
okay, so,
you know,
Yeah,
so,
really.
so what I can do is I can present an idea to you all so that you can see what maybe a draft would look like, and maybe we could discuss this, at our next meeting, so that we can continue the conversation.
well, can we make sure we put this on our agenda for our next
Sure.
executive meeting? And maybe in the
Sure.
meantime, we can all kind of brainstorm
Sure,
and come with some
Yeah.
ideas to the meeting.
absolutely.
All right, now you can
Absolutely.
answer the
Thank you.
questions from the community.
Mr. Lochner, I guess the first one is, what is the reason? And I think that this is, in response to the message that you sent out to the community. First one is, what is the reason for doing the COVID test when we are not in the yellow zone?
Okay, all right, that's a very good question. Actually, one of the primary ways that the CDC and the Department of Health have said to mitigate the spread of the virus is additional testing. So I think that's one of the primary reasons that you do go into testing. And I know that community members all across the country, that's what they're doing, is trying to take the test as frequently as possible in order to mitigate the spread. That's really the number one reason. Number two is, although we're not in a yellow zone, many school districts have chosen to do this to kind of preempt that occurrence from happening, which, obviously we don't want to go into the yellow zone. I actually sent something out district wide. Thankfully, many of the districts and counties across the state have actually been reduced from yellow zones and out of the yellow zones, or red and orange down to yellow. So that's we're grateful about that. That seems to be occurring. So there's really a number of reasons, and also the opportunity to give our staff and students who are here at school all day an opportunity to take a quick test and get some results, and move on back to class, hopefully, or back to the classroom or an office or wherever they're working. So there's a number of reasons that we're actually undertaking this.
Right. And it's
I know
totally
you-
voluntary, right? We need to, just make
Totally
it
voluntary.
clear, totally voluntary. So nobody's being forced.
And I
Not
know
at
you
all.
send the permission slip in December, right? And you're resending it again, so the permission slip in December is not the one you're going by, you're going by the one now.
Yeah, exactly, Maria. Thanks for pointing that out. We did. We did it in December because, we were thinking that we would be in the yellow zone or asked by the county to undertake the testing in December. So we kind of went ahead because that was the indications we were getting, as many school districts were. So we went ahead and sent out that permission slip to kind of be set. But that's now over a month ago, so I really think that now has become obsolete, if you will. So this new survey is what we're going to work off of.
Was that clear to everyone that the old one is obsolete? Was that part of the message?
I can message. I don't know if that was part of my letter, but I certainly
Yeah, I
can. I'm going to follow it up with a phone call because I do want to have parents fill out the survey. It is important too to note that it's really only available to remote students and to staff members who are actually, working on campus. So
Wait,
we have
remote
some
or hybrid? You said remote.
I apologize. It's only available to hybrid students who are in school. Unfortunately, the remote students, we cannot do that as per the Suffolk County Department of Health's guidelines, as well as the county executive, Steve Malone. It's only for people who are on the
In school.
campus that
Okay.
can be tested.
Hybrid and we do have some students who come 5 days, right? If they have special needs or.
Exactly. They would be part of it as well.
Okay.
Yep. So we're mandated to test only 20%. I mean, if we go a little bit over, that would be fine. But we'll probably stick to around 20%. And it's voluntary for kids. Absolutely. I mean, parents, please do not, if you're uncomfortable, please don't check yes, check no. We're absolutely okay with that. It is being conducted by our nurses here at the school district. They have been trained. Obviously, they're professionals anyhow, but it is really kind of a non-invasive. I went over it, a number of times already. It's a non-invasive, invasive test, and I'm sure many people have already taken the rapid test. It's a very quick test, and we get the results 15 minutes after the test has been taken. In terms of staff members as well, it's also voluntary. They'll be getting a survey separately from the students. We'll ask the teachers, the TAs, the monitors, the clericals, food service, custodians, whomever would like to sign up. They also can sign up, and then we randomly select 20% of the people on the campus.
I have a question. Logistically, what happens if a staff member takes the rapid test and tests positive? Now they're already in school. I'm assuming they get sent home. How do we cover that classroom?
Yeah, that's a great question, Julie. That is true that if a student obviously tests positive,
Right.
we put that student in an isolation room, just as we would if they tested, if they showed symptoms in school. That's just what we do. We were mandated to have isolation rooms. So the same thing would happen. They'd be in isolation. We'd call home right away and ask the mom or dad or guardian to come up and pick up that child. That's the child. In terms of the staff member, you're absolutely right. We will, hopefully they're okay to drive. They should be asymptomatic. We're only testing asymptomatic people. But if they are positive, they will be asked to go home. We will have subs in the building ready to take over their class or classes.
Will you ask for a confirmation with a PCR test, or would you ask for for them to quarantine for 10 days?
We'll ask them to quarantine for 10 days. However, the recommendation certainly will be to follow up with their doctor. And whether that's a child or a staff member, to follow up with their doctor. And if the doctor recommends a PCR test, then yeah, we would certainly encourage that. That's actually, quite common, Maria, as I'm sure you know, that people get tested and they're tested positive on the rapid test, and they go to their doctor and they're asked that their doctor requires them to take the PCR test. So that is pretty common.
So we can probably tie into the next. Oh, go ahead.
I'm sorry. And if you have a child in a classroom, would you quarantine the whole class, or would you quarantine only the kids around 6 feet away from that child, like some schools are doing?
Yes, no, we actually we follow the CDC guidelines very, very strictly, and the Department of Health guidelines. Obviously, we had Mr. McRae on earlier, and if a classroom it depends on how long the student was in a classroom, what again, the social distancing, if that was in effect, were they wearing masks, and was the room properly ventilated? So it's duration, ventilation, and have all of the safety precautions been met. Now, if it's an elementary school, as you know, Maria, elementary schools, they are in classes for a much longer duration. So you might be in 3rd grade, you might be in a class literally 3 or 4 or 5 hours. And at that point, we do quarantine the entire class as well as the teacher and the TA. That does happen. Secondary, it's a little different. They may not, some of their classes are 40 minutes. They're socially distanced. They might only have 4 or 5 kids in the classroom. The window might be open, door open, proper ventilation. We would not quarantine that class.
What about passing time in the hallway? Is that not considered to be a high risk?
Yes, that's a great question, Julie. No, that's not considered to be a high risk. It's actually duration of time in contact with with the infectious person. Hallways or passing are not considered,
What about like a cafeteria situation? Like, what is the time limit? Because if they.
Also a good question. Yeah, the time, obviously they're in there a little bit longer, but there we have the additional protection of having the plastic guards around the kids. That's actually factored in. Plus you have the volume of the room. So you have a higher ceiling, a greater width, and a greater length. And all of those things are actually computed. And Mr. McRae, who we met earlier, actually takes the volume of classrooms and gymnasiums and cafeterias, plugs it into the CDC formula, and outspits the recommendation. So sometimes, no, whole cafeterias are not necessarily quarantined if a student is positive.
You know, I had a conversation with Mr. McCray earlier in the week about a situation that came to my attention, you know, and I called him about it. And I was comforted by one of his responses to me was that he feels that he's doing something right because we're not really being hit with large numbers of, you know, contagion that has occurred within schools.
Absolutely agree.
So
Yes.
I just felt so much more comforted by that. That, you know, it may not seem logical for all of us, and it didn't to me, but that helped me to realize that, you know, there's some science involved in here and some other factors that seem to be working.
Yeah, and you're absolutely right, Julie. What's happened is I think because of the way we followed the guidelines, and as I said, we're really not fudging. We're doing exactly what is required of us, and even extra at times. And what he meant was that when a person is infectious, and then we quarantine a group of people, though that group of people are not being they're not testing positive, and they're you know, we've done the right thing, and we haven't spread it from that particular person. I will tell you, and I don't know if he had an opportunity to tell you, and you know, I'm being completely transparent with the district, and that is that I believe the new strains of the virus are much more contagious. So, you know, that's something that we have to be careful about, and because I do believe that that might be happening. I don't know if it's as, you know, if it will hurt the patient as much, but I think that we are seeing a different strain of the virus, and Byron and I have had, you know, conversations about this, that it is, I think we are going to see a little bit more of a spread within the population.
So another part of our conversation that, you know, I still have some concerns about is that according to the CDC, what Mr. McCray shared with me is that he's only allowed to trace back 48 hours, right? For somebody who's contagious. So if it's a regular weekday, that's an easier thing to do. But when we come to a weekend, you know, it's a little bit more, I don't want to say questionable, but it is more difficult to really, you know, pinpoint who you're going to quarantine and who you're not, because we have those extra weekend days. And that doesn't mean that this person, you know, or people may not have been in contact with someone on the Friday.
Right.
And
well, what he does is it's not just 48 days from when they took a test. It's also 48 days. What he does is he questions the person along with sua verso. They'll question the person, and when were they symptomatic? So very frequently what happens is we'll have, let's say somebody goes home on a Wednesday and they were symptomatic. They may not take the test till that Saturday. And then they'll get the results back. They'll call Mr. McCray, their building supervisor, Susan Averso, and they'll say, I took the test on Friday or Saturday. I have the results. Their first question will be, well, when were you symptomatic? And if they say Wednesday, then what Byron does is he takes that Wednesday as the starting point, and he backs up the 2 days, Tuesday and Monday. So now he'll look and say, well, that student has been in classes on Wednesday, Tuesday, and Monday, and he'll follow that student and see, or staff member, and see who in fact should be, if anyone, should be quarantined. So the same thing would work on the weekend. You know, if somebody, he backs up for when the test was taken. If they're asymptomatic and they take a test, he backs up 48 hours. But if they were symptomatic, it's when the symptoms began is when he's back 48 hours. I don't know if that helped.
Yeah, Mr. Lawson, I have a question. Julie, I'm sorry. Did you have, or you finished?
No, he said, you know, no, he said, I don't know if that helps. It helps to some degree. I think it doesn't help the comfort level sometimes for parents that are not as sure or secure that they're being notified when they feel they should be notified. You know, that their child may have been exposed since Wednesday, but now we're not notifying them until Monday, because that's when we
I actually
find out
posted
that
the
it's
whole
positive.
thing, Julie, I did post it on the mom and dad's, the whole procedure.
Yeah, but not everybody's on Facebook.
Right.
No,
So
I know
I
that.
think we need to really say it.
Well, again, you know, we're only as good, like that example I gave, Julie, of that student or staff member going home on Wednesday and not taking the test for a few
Okay.
more days. That was an example. We
Right.
won't have that information about a positive test until Saturday, let's say. And again, though, as soon as we find out, we do the proper, you know, we follow the proper protocols, and Byron does his contact tracing and will notify the people. I will tell you this, as soon as we get a positive, the contact tracing clock starts, and Byron is off to the races, and he gets an answer as quickly as possible. And anybody who should be quarantined is notified as soon as we have that information. So if parents, there's two things there. If parents feel like they're not being notified, that means their child was not in contact with the person or the child or the
Well, that we
teacher.
didn't know. I don't know that we can say they weren't, that we didn't know that they were in contact at that time, right? Because we don't know to let them know on Wednesday. If
Oh,
the
well,
person's,
Yeah,
you
in
know what
that
I mean? Like,
example, yes, we would not have known, no. But then again, when using that same example, let's say they, you know, Byron did discover that some people needed to be quarantined. He would call those people on that needed to be quarantined from Wednesday, Tuesday, and Monday. Now, to your point, that is correct, that, you know, unfortunately, those people may not have known. I think that's your point there. But that's not anything that we can kind of,
right.
you know, that's why as soon as you know, and I think our staff members are terrific at it. They email their supervisors, Byron and Susan, and parents actually have been terrific too. I spoke to many of the nurses. They're very happy, and principals. As soon as someone is test positive, they give the building a call, and they willingly share that information very quickly. So I think we're going as quickly as, you know, we
I think that's
possibly can.
important.
Mr. Loescher, the few schools that I've been to, I haven't seen any of the children during passing time, but you've been into many of the schools. When they have passing time, are they following the 6 feet spread as far as, you know, because I know sometimes when the kids get in the hallway, they might be glad to see their friends. Are they still being separated by the little signs that's on the floor?
Yes, okay,
yeah.
let me take you through the different schools if I can real quickly. I don't want to, but the elementary schools, they're really only in the hallways. They're always separated, at least arm's length. I see it every single day. They're arm's length if they're walking from, let's say, their classroom to the gymnasium. The teachers are, you know, incredibly careful about that. The kids have their face masks on. They're well beyond arm's length, and they march down the hallway. So you'll rarely see groups of kids passing. They're usually it's kind of synchronized on the elementary level. The middle schools and the high school and the freshman center, they have literally on their floors, they've divided up hallways, and they've also made one-way hallways, and they're passing on the right and passing on the left. So, and I'm in the schools, as you say, every single day, and I'm there during passing time. I was there at the high school a number of times today through passing time. And generally, the kids are following the directions. They're traveling through the hallway the correct way, and they really are passing, for the most part, at a fair distance. Can I tell you that there won't be times that they're going to pass one another and it's going to be very closer than 6 feet? Yes. But generally speaking, kids are walking through the hallway at a social distance. You know, for the most part, it really is, that part is working very, very well.
I'll tell you, I've been in the middle schools and I'm totally impressed with them. It's amazing how they are listening.
Right. And
I have never seen any, and I've seen them in between classes. Never seen anybody stop and socialize.
Well,
It
yes,
was just, it was sad. It was actually very sad.
that's not a great thing. Yes.
Yeah,
That's
I was,
breaks
You know,
my
it
heart,
was
but
very
yes,
sad.
that's,
Actually, it's depressing, really.
It is. It's very
Even
depressing.
in the cafeteria, it bothers me seeing the students separated when I know in the cafeterias they do this socialization, and it is bothersome. It really
And
is.
I actually was in the cafeteria with a bunch of kids. actually at North Middle.
Yeah,
And it was cute though, but they were separated, they were behind the things and they were all
Yeah.
talking and laughing.
Yeah, I
So,
will,
you know-
yeah, I will say they, Paula, kids have adapted. They are incredible. They have learned to, laugh and joke around. They are still separated though. They're at their tables and
But they
they're
are
talking
making the
to
best of
one
it.
another.
It's,
But it's
they're
not as
making the
much
best
as
of
it-
it.
energy that it's when I go, it's the energy that's missing. You know
Sure.
what I mean?
Yep,
When you go to
absolutely.
schools and I'm not even in school, but I miss it when I go into the buildings, you
Right.
know? So,
I agree. I
Are we
agree.
moving on to other questions?
yes.
Robert, you're silent. Okay.
Ms. Lotion, you have addressed this in the past. Question number 2 is, what about payment for faculty that is quarantined? Will they be paid?
Yeah, actually, by the New York State guidelines, there were 2 guidelines. Initially, there were the federal guidelines and New York State guidelines. And as per New York State guidelines, which we're operating under now, federal guidelines actually expired on the 31st of December. And according to New York State guidelines, that if you're instructed to quarantine by an agency, be it the Department of Health or the school district, then you actually get paid while you are on quarantine. And right now we're quarantining up to 10 days. That's the required amount of days. But I will tell you this, that the vast majority of teachers and other staff members continue to work while they are home. And I think that's really commendable. They're home, they're quarantined, they're not happy about it, but the first thing they do is they ask their supervisor, their principal, or whomever that supervisor is, can I work from home? And if we can accommodate them, which we can most of the time, those teachers are teaching from home. And I've been in many, many classes where the roles are kind of reversed. The teacher's home on the monitor and the kids are in class, and we'll have either a substitute or a TA who are there helping the in-person kids while the quarantine teacher will actually be instructing.
Mr. Walsh, I have a question because I have had these conversations with some staff members and I got slightly different information. If the Department of Health ask them to quarantine, will they get paid from like the COVID money or will they have to use their sick days?
Okay, there's different things here.
Right.
Now, I should get this out to people too. We've never been reimbursed. There's some misinformation out there. Even when we were operating under the federal guidelines, the school districts did not get reimbursed COVID money or COVID pay when teachers called in sick or were quarantined or isolated. That's a misconception. We don't get reimbursed. Okay, school districts do not.
But isn't there a federal guideline that's still in effect that there's a guideline?
Right, we're following that guideline, and the teachers, as I said, they would get paid. And I'm sorry, what was the actual question again?
So let's say if they have, it's really a concern, a lot of much bigger concern for teachers with small children, for example, who's maybe a child tests positive and now the teacher has to stay home, right? Because
Right.
she's the parent.
Right.
Will she or he get paid, and not have to use their sick days because they're being forced to quarantine?
No, again, that actually falls under one of the scenarios where they will be told to quarantine
Exactly.
by us or the Department of Health. And if
So
they
either
have to,
one.
either one,
Right.
Okay.
And at that point, they are getting paid. Now, many times, as I said, they're working for us,
Right.
and as I said, I'm very grateful for that. Really, 90% of the teachers continue to work from home while they are quarantined. But no, they're in that scenario. Just to finish this point, Julie, they are getting paid and they're working. What does happen is, let's say Sachem Elementary, one of the Sachem elementary schools closes, goes remote. And a teacher has to stay home to take care of their take care of their child. They're not being quarantined, the whole school is being sent home. In that case, a teacher does have to use their sick days.
Okay, but that's because they don't have a specific diagnosis or illness or positive test or.
Exactly, or
Just
they're not
that.
living with somebody who has a positive test. That's correct. Now, again, they'll work with their supervisor, when it comes to that. But in terms of the guidelines, that's the actual guideline right there.
So what if a teacher has that situation and they choose to, is it a choice for them to work remotely from home and not have to use their sick days?
Yes, and that was why my last sentence was that they can work with their supervisor, and then they wouldn't use their sick day.
Thank you.
Yeah, I mean,
I don't know who asked the question, but hopefully that gets.
I hope
clarified.
that answered that question. Our goal, our primary goal is to keep the continuity of instruction. So if a teacher is quarantined and they are willing to, and as I said, I think everyone is, most everyone has been, they will instruct the class from home. And at that point, they're not getting charged the sick day.
Okay.
We've really, I think, worked very well together. If there's a staff member out there, Julie, that has a question, please tell him or her not to hesitate to give us a call. We'll answer.
Okay. Yeah, there was a question, so I will get back to that. Thank you.
Okay.
Commissioner, so after all this testing is done in the buildings, I guess the next question is, what happens if there's a particularly high result in a building? I mean, is there anything that you know of that is going to be a result of any of the testing that we're doing?
Well, I mean, quite honestly, we don't anticipate a high number. I mean, that's obviously we hope not to have a high number. I guess if there was, for some reason, a high concentration of positives in a class or in a school, rather, we would probably have to take a look as to why and, maybe take some action at that point. But really, our hope is that the percentage is quite low.
My concern is that when you start to test, you do get more positives because you're testing and you're catching asymptomatic people.
Right.
So we might come across a scenario like that we do find out that we have more positives than we anticipate.
Yeah, exactly. But, and believe me, I've struggled with this as well, Julie, with the testing. But I guess the argument there would be that we caught it.
I think it's, I think it's a good thing, just something to be aware of that might happen.
Right. Yeah, no, we've thought, I've thought about it a great deal, obviously. If there is a number in a school that I think that we're approaching, then I'll obviously, talk to the board members and we'll come up with a way to handle that situation.
Mr. Lochner, I guess the piggyback to this is that, is there any advantage then to the district to obtaining vaccines for the community in a much more expedited form if we do have that kind of high level of number of positives? Do you know if anything that has been conversation?
Oh, well, that's actually, part of my strategy here. I do hope that if we have a successful testing period, that the county will consider us as a site to distribute the vaccination. I have called Steve Ballone personally to ask if we could become a vaccination site. He didn't discount it. There are some schools that are actually in Nassau, Suffolk County that are going to be asked to be a site to distribute the vaccination. I would like the Brentwood School District to be one of those sites. We are not right now, though. But there's kind of in the back of my mind, I am thinking that if we have a positive outcome from this, that they will consider it. I will tell you this, though, just so the community does know that if we ever do get that chance to be a vaccination site, from what I understand, it is to a community vaccination site. It is not strictly to employees or students of the Brentwood school districts. It's to the Brentwood community. So
Mr. Lochner,
everyone.
Yeah, Mr. Lochner. So I mean, I like the enthusiasm, but just for the record, we do have Suffolk Community College
Right.
right up
And thank you.
the street that has already been designated as a vaccination
Right.
site. I know that we've had even staff from our school district go over there. We've had community members go there. So certainly, I think Brentwood has is in a really good position.
Good spot. Yeah, absolutely. And thank you so much for bringing that up, Mr. Feliciano, because I think that is something everybody should know, that we do have them right there at the Brentwood
Have
campus.
you
And I think
seen
that's
their
one of the reasons.
security to get in there? You can't even get in the parking lot. They have police right at the gate.
I
Well,
would
and I'm
imagine
sure-
if you have an appointment.
You're not getting nowhere near it.
But I'm sure that any testing
you
site
have an
that would be designated would be required to have the same thing.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, no,
this
they
is-
have heavy duty security there.
Yep. Okay. Mr. Lucia, so thank you. Thank you very much for entertaining all those questions. I'm gonna go with number 5. Is it true that the board is looking into changes at the administration building, moving departments around? Who is paying for this when we're not hiring staff back? Where's the money coming from? Our staff has enough work to do now. Basically, these are just plans that have been in the works for quite some time. Just because we are experiencing COVID-19 and everything that we're living with, doesn't discount everything that we are trying to do for in terms of preparation for any future growth and any of the things that are going to create efficiencies. I would line this up with the same idea that we were just talking about a little later, where we are thinking about now in terms of investing money to put the district in a position so that we are giving interactive technology to all classrooms. We continue to invest. We continue to invest in the district. I think that it's something that we, of course, not to the level that we had planned, because there were projects that were actually taken off. But these are just some changes, that have been in discussion for a number of months. So
I think
No
the
huge-
question speaks more to the priorities, though. I'm guessing that's what's behind it. Like, why are we putting money into a building and not into personnel?
because
Right.
because those
Other
investments those investments, I believe, still have to happen. So it's not like that we're not discounting what it is that's going on. The fact is, we shouldn't wait. As far as I'm concerned, we shouldn't wait to try to take on all these things whenever we reopen. It's just a matter of doing things wisely. The one thing that I can remember, and the one thing that I can point to is, I believe there was a project that we had on the table for parking lot that was going to cost in excess of $1 million. And I'm not sure if Mr. Ocean or Ms. O'Connor, if you could just chime in. But I believe that was something that was like, okay, you know what, we're not going to do that. We're going to put that on hold, and we are going to continue with some of these smaller kind of in-house items. Was the $1 million correct, Mr. Lochner?
Yes, it was a parking lot over at West Middle School. We were going to do this past summer, and we
Yep.
took the money from that and obviously rolled it into some of the projects that we discussed here. I mean, I could just say that for the most part, this is really minimal impact on the district in terms of cost. We are using our own internal guys, so they are very quick at throwing up a wall, and a temporary wall, and we do have an electrician that actually can run the wire, and it's all done during the school day. So it's really not taking anything away from the kids or the schools. I wouldn't want anybody to think that. For other reasons too, we do have to continue with abatement. Some of the offices here, which are it's a very old building, we were required to do some abatement. So we did have to take the rug up in a couple of offices, it was tattered. And obviously, us being a school district, we have to follow strict guidelines. That necessitated pulling up the rug, and at the same time, we created an office, and we put paint up, we ran some electric, and obviously put the new tile down. The tile, I will say though, whenever we abate something, we do have a tile company, an outside tile company that comes in and lays the tile. but it's really not taking money away from, from the kids. And as Mr. Feliciano said, we actually did, as you know, abolish and combine some positions here at the administrative building, which saved, some money. And we're actually now just moving some offices around, but it's not really a huge deal.
Yeah, Mr. Lochner, and it's funny because you just reminded me of something. So I was able to tour the admin earlier this week, just to look at some of those things that was going on. And with that, I did learn that during our holiday recess, the Bellinger room, the small board meeting room in the back at admin, had a tremendous amount of damage due to a heating system failure. And I think there was steam that came out pouring, for a number of days into that room. And Ms. O'Connor was kind enough to walk with me as we were going through the building. And she did mention that room, because of the damage, was going to have to be renovated, and that they have, and that the district has an insurance claim that is being processed. So that I really, the only reason why I bring that up is because, the community is probably going to hear about work being done in that room. And I don't want them to think that, again, that's just an excess that, that we are contriving, that this is actually a real need based on damage that was in that room, that for the most part should be covered by the insurance company. It's the other thing that I learned while I was there that I didn't know is that, there was asbestos in the trim. I always thought that the asbestos was, the floors and the ceilings, and not necessarily in the trim. So there is going to be some work that's going to be happening in that room. I don't know what the timeline is, but it is going to be covered by insurance for the most part. So the last question, Mr. Lochner, is, I guess if I can just summarize this, is that, what is it that we're doing to better the teaching for our children, knowing that, that they have, been behind the 8 ball for this whole year. I think that we answered that question the last time we were in meeting, and I want to say that conversation continues. There are ideas that are going to be brought forth by central administration in terms of how it is that we can address this population of students that is struggling. I want to just, ask that, we continue to be patient, allow for administration to vet some of these things out, and then present those ideas to the Board of Education.
Yeah.
Any other questions from the board?
Well, there is one more on there, but we talked about that.
Yep.
No, I think that question is specific about hybrid model, but like you said, that's something that we're going to be addressing with Mr. Lochner's recommendation.
Yep.
Because, okay.
Do you think that the governor is going to change the guidelines, Mr. Lochner,
What guidelines?
with the how many feet away?
If you asked me, that's a great question. Sydney, thank you for asking it. If you asked me 3 weeks ago, a month ago, 2 months ago, I would have absolutely said no.
Exactly.
That I don't think that he's going to change it. However, I wrote it in my letter, but I haven't said anything publicly at this meeting, that the governor came out. I guess it's it's only, my gosh, it's only last week, and said that we now can hold the winter sports that are considered contact sport. And for us, it's wrestling, girls and boys, JV and varsity basketball, and cheerleading. So he actually came out with that and said that the local counties can actually come up with a plan to host those sports for 4 weeks, which we are doing. And I'm very excited about that. I thought that change by the governor was quite telling. And for him to, obviously there's safety protocols that we're that he's mandated, that we must put into place. That is, we're going to do weekly rapid tests of our athletes. So when they participate, we're confident that they're not positive. But I thought that was an interesting step, honestly, Cindy. So
Yeah.
if now I'm not so sure that he won't come out in a short time and say he'd have to waive the 6 foot social distancing rule for us to consider bringing everybody back. But we are obviously, as you guys know, we are considering certain populations. But yeah, so I can't say definitively, so please don't read into this, but I'm just saying that decision was very interesting, very telling. And do I think that there is a possibility now that he will waive the guidelines? I think so. I think so. I think
I
there is
don't
a
know if you've
possibility.
seen it, but I don't know if you've seen it, but Longwood said they're all going back to school for 4 days. Am I correct? Or you didn't see it yet?
No. I have, and that's 4 days, and
It
there's
was 4
other.
days, right?
Yes, there are other school districts that are considering going back for 4 days. East Islip may
Yes.
be going back.
Yep.
They're again in a little different situations than us.
Absolutely.
But I just want the community, and the board already knows that we're looking, as I know the board is always supportive of trying to get as many kids back as possible.
Right. So can I go back to that hybrid model question? I've heard from multiple parents that they've become very frustrated with the remote part of the hybrid instruction, right? When their kids go to school, then, their kids are in school and they're getting the help and the instruction that they need. However, when they're home, it just seems to be much more challenging. And this is what I've heard from, like I said, multiple parents that, they don't feel that their kids are getting the, and they're not, like, the undivided attention from the teacher, that the teacher's attention is split. I was wondering, and we may have had conversations about this early on before we decided on this hybrid model of, having the students keeping the schedule we have with the gold and the green, but when students are home, like if that piece of it is not working as well, and I'm not saying it's not 100% for everyone, but we know for some it's not, like, would it be possible or advisable for some of that instruction time to be covered by, additional assignments, perhaps by the teacher or some other way than keeping, the effort on for trying to connect the kids? And I know there were computer glitches, here and there, like just something to think about. We don't have to, of course, decide this today,
Right,
but something to think about, that might cut down on the frustration on some of the parents' part and maybe ease up some of the pressure on the students and maybe even the teachers. I'm not sure.
Yeah, I mean, listen, we're willing to listen to any idea. I will tell you that it's obviously, I understand where parents and students are coming from. It is certainly an imperfect system at an imperfect time in our history. It is very difficult, and I'm not going to sugarcoat it. There's no reason to do it. We all know how difficult that situation is. I've been in many classes. I was in a bunch today where teachers are teaching kids in person and remote, and that's the difficulty. Our fully remote classes who have a fully remote teacher have their own set of circumstances, but they seem to have really made it over most of the hurdles. It's a very difficult chore for teachers. It really is, and for students, because you do have 4 or 5 or 10 to 12 to 13, 14, 15 kids in your classroom, and the rest are on the monitor. And what I will say that I think the teachers have done a remarkable job figuring out how to stay on camera, stay on mic, answer kids. I was in a bilingual class today, and they were reading at home and in class simultaneously. And the teacher actually did a remarkable job. But it's not perfect, because what happens is, and teachers have told me this too, they have to, I'm looking at a monitor right now in my office. Obviously, I'm only focusing on this monitor right now, and I'm answering your question, Julie. And it's an uncomfortable situation, because now the teacher is answering questions, and I've seen this many times, where they're helping a child who is home, but the kids who are in class, there's a little bit of a downtime. Now they are, teachers are very adept at saying, work on this, but giving attention here. And it's not that easy, and that's that imperfect system. I think we're all getting better at it, but I understand why parents are.
Mr. Lochner, yeah, I'm sorry to interrupt, but I've heard it from the other side.
No,
So
absolutely.
the children and the parents that are home, when the teacher steps aside to, address an issue with a student in class, now the students that are on the screen are left, wondering what's going on because they don't really have access. They can't hear the teacher. And that's where I think the frustration is coming in.
No doubt. And I don't know whether it will ever be perfect though, Julie. The reason being is just as you said, like if I stepped away right now and worked at my conference table, there'd be a level of frustration, where did he go? And I think that is what's happening. I think what we're doing is we're juggling two worlds, trying to mesh them as best as possible.
Right. I'm almost inclined to think though, that if we eliminate that remote piece for those hybrid students, the teacher can focus all of his or her energy on the students that are in class. And there might be a better, quantitative level of instruction that they can focus on those students and give them some really directive, assignments to complete at home. And then they do the same thing for the next color group. And then when those kids come back, they can pick up where they left off and have some continuity. I don't know, just a thought.
Right. Well, that would be, that's, then that would be considered asynchronous learning at home. And I think that would, I think parents would be quite frustrated with that if kids were home on 2 to 3 days a week and not having any interaction with their teacher. That would be the downside. So if you were here on Tuesday, but I wasn't going to see you until Friday and I gave you a packet of work, I think that doesn't give the child an opportunity to ask the question. At least synchronously they can. It's not perfect. And believe me, we looked at both worlds to get in both ideas. I think most school districts, if not all, have gone to the synchronous model that we actually started day one with. But it's not perfect. And I don't want to say that to parents, and I understand the frustration. I am very sorry. I hope we get through it as much as, soon. I also want to say that if kids are struggling, we're coming up with lots of ideas to really help those kids that are struggling. You saw that I sent you something earlier today.
And I know you mentioned about, I'm sorry.
Good.
I know you mentioned about the social emotional part and the piece of that and how, eventually we will have to, or work on that a little bit.
Yeah, no, listen, our students, you hear it from not just from me, but for everybody. And I've said this from day one, that the sense of isolation that kids feel and the loneliness when they're not with us, is real and, very impactful. And that's why many of our students actually are contacting our guidance counselors, guidance counselors and social workers at 9, 10, 11 o'clock at night. Because they are experiencing such loneliness. As I've said many, many times, if parents, you have any, if your child is experiencing a depression, please give us a call and we will help any possible way. I think we're doing everything we can, but I want to be able to do more.
But we're going to have to figure out how many social workers we have in each school. Because what I found out, one school only has 2 every couple of days. Or twice a week. That's what it was. Twice a week. And that's not going to be enough.
Again, I agree with that. We have social workers and psychologists in different buildings, but I mentioned them. I know that kids are also reaching out to their classroom teachers the same way.
Just to offer some fun things to do. I know that I think it's East Middle. I know that when the kids are at lunch, they are allowed after they eat, they're allowed to go outside or whatnot. I guess little things like that,
Absolutely.
makes a difference.
Yeah. I also thought, and we had a little discussion about this earlier, probably before we went public, but just building in maybe some opportunities for students to connect with each other off task, off, the academic instruction. some opportunities for them to just have some social time with the, computers that they have, and of course, moderated by a staff member, perhaps.
Right.
Opening that time up for students to be able to come and talk with their classmates and, have somebody available that they
Right.
can talk to.
Yeah, as I mentioned before we came on, that, all of the schools are looking to really increase the number of evening events and activities to kind of do exactly what you're saying, is
Yeah.
get them connected, much more, just as if we were in a typical year, because as I said earlier, Brentwood, I think, does it better than anybody, having events and activities at, in the evenings to kind of get kids and families to fall in love with their community schools. We're gonna, step those activities up in the next few months.
If I can just summarize this and just so we can move forward. All of this was a learning curve for everyone, students, families, teachers, administrators, and central, even for the board. And we said right from day one that all this is going to be very, very fluid. I'm going to tell you right now that I have seen nothing but growth. So if this was, a kind of like a APPR score or one of those growth model scores that we have instituted in our own buildings for students, where we were in September and where we are now, I think is just incredible. And part of that includes the learning curve that we all had. And I continue to believe that, that through this we will become better for it in terms of our teaching model, and it's going to be something that I think that we can build on in the future.
Mr. Feliciano, I'm sorry, before we go on, can we make an announcement about kindergarten registration? Because that actually has just started, and I'm not sure that everybody has that information. If we could maybe share the phone number that they can call, they can also look on the district website.
Do you have that information in front of you?
Yeah, the phone number is, the registration number is 434-2301.
Okay.
So if any parents listening.
And the dates for registration, they've already
They
opened?
started now. I'm not sure. I think they're ongoing. I'm not sure when they end, but it's usually advisable for parents to register as early as possible.
And that's
And
absolutely
that's
correct.
that's for new incoming kindergartners. Now, the ones that are pre-K, they are automatically registered.
I think
Right.
they are.
Yes.
Yes.
It's in
Yeah, we'll also
like
have
that.
a registration for UPK coming up as well, but thank you, Julie. Yes, registration for kindergarten is taking place right now. You gave 631-434-2301. Please give us a call and we'll walk you through the process. Much of it is now online, taking place.
I'm going to say it in Spanish. I don't know if we have a Spanish audience, but
We do have a
Please.
Spanish translation, Julie, going on Facebook.
Perfect. Thank you.
All right, thank you to all the members for your time, and thank you to Central Administration always, Mr. Lochner, Ms. O'Connor, and your team. I know that we have Assistant Soups out there and the Director of Special Services always lending a hand.
Absolutely.
That being said, could I have a motion to adjourn the workshop, please?
Motion.
Motion by Trustee Burgos. Could I have a second?
Second.
Second by Trustee Safiri. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed?
Aye.
Abstentions? So moved. Have a wonderful night, everybody. Be safe.
Night.
Good
Thank
night.
you. Good night now. Thank you.
Good night.
Good night, guys.
Night.
Bye.